Chapter 1076. The blood from the chests of dozens of abyss dragons dripped down their weapons and gathered toward Lu Chen along the runes on the ground. The dragon blood climbed up Lu Chen's body and poured into his heart. The dragon scales on Lu Chen's body began to flip back and forth wildly as if they were out of control. Lu Chen, who was already in a daze, opened his eyes slightly. Seeing the scene in front of him, he did not understand what was happening. In the sky, Ma Bei said in shock, "This is the blood sacrifice array. Those black dragons have injected their dragon blood into Nameless' body. They are carrying out the bloodline inheritance." However, King Yen Luo was simply too powerful. The defensive formation was already on the verge of collapsing. "Abyss dragons, how dare you save him? If I had known earlier, I would have killed all of you earlier." Yama roared furiously as he punched the defensive array. "Oh no, I'm afraid that the King of Hell will break the array before the bloodline inheritance is completed." Pavilion Master Hai exclaimed, "We can't stand by and do nothing. Nameless is now our only hope. We must protect him." Ma Bei nodded. The King of Hell had said before that the primordial temple had completed the bloodline, so the only chance now was to kill the King of Hell. However, only Nameless could do that. "Everyone, even if we die in battle, we must help Nameless complete the bloodline inheritance. Whether or not we are affected by Nameless' heavenly might, even if we have to sacrifice our lives, we must hold him back." With that, Ma Bei, Pavilion Master Hai, and the others took the lead. "This is our last chance. Charge!" The million immortal soldiers, despite being affected by both sides, all charged toward the battlefield below. At the same time, Little Critter, Little Furball, and Little Originator charged toward the King of Hell. Little Critter shouted, "You guys hold those puppets back. The King of Hell was too strong. He could easily kill an army of 1,000,000. However, the puppets rarely had AoE skills. Although the immortal army was no match for them, the casualties would be much lower." The three beasts pounced on King of Hell at the same time. Even King of Hell had to take these three beasts seriously. Perhaps King of Hell also wanted the three battle pets, so he didn't directly use the destruction stardust. Even so, King of Hell's strength was still frightening. Nethersky Soul Lock. To deal with these three beasts, it was better to trap them than to kill them. As long as he killed Lu Chen, these three beasts would become ownerless. At that time, he could consider how to subdue them. Between heaven and earth, iron chains crisscrossed, and the three beasts frantically jumped between the chains. "Stop struggling. You won't be able to escape from me." King of Hell sneered. "Still not being honest? Then I can only let you suffer a little first. God of Underworld, Lord of all things." A beam of spiritual energy pierced through the left side of the little ball of hair. The little ball of hair lost its balance and was instantly trapped by the iron chains. God of Underworld, true God's wrath. A punch landed on the Originator. The Originator was knocked away and hit one of the iron chains, which quickly tied it up. Little ball of hair. Originator. The little beast was enraged to see that both the little ball of hair and the Originator were subdued. However, it couldn't pass through the iron chains to save the little ball of hair and the Originator. It had to try its best to move between the chains. It was the only one left. If it could buy some time, its father would have a better chance. The Immortal Army and the Immortal Army clashed head-on. Even though the Immortal Army outnumbered the Immortal Army by 10 times, the disparity in strength was too great. It was a one-sided slaughter. "Yi Fan, watch out!" Xiao Zhan summoned a ball of fire and forced a puppet to retreat. His attributes were lowered, but his affinity with the fire element remained the same. Since his fire was the bane of the army of the dead, he successfully forced the puppet to retreat. Use elemental attacks. Our goal is to buy time. Xiao Zhan roared in the crowd. Chu Tian was doing his best to use the killing Rakshasa gate. However, not everyone had Xiao Zhan's high affinity with the fire element. Many of them were instantly killed. I also have family to protect. I won't let you rule the Yang world. I'll fight you to the death. The whole battlefield was instantly dyed red with blood. Lu Chen's body was quickly recovering. He finally opened his eyes again. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the cruel battlefield in front of him. The little beast was doing its best to deal with the King of Hell. The million immortal army was using their own flesh and blood to delay the puppet army and buy time for Lu Chen. The Nether Dragon clan was constantly supplying him with blood. Some of them had already fallen, while others were still holding on. At this moment, it didn't matter whether they were friends or foes. All their hopes and bets were placed on him. Tears flowed from the corners of Lu Chen's eyes. At this time, He Ruik tiredly shouted, "This is bad, his dragon crystal is wrong." Of course there was something wrong with Lu Chen's dragon crystal. He was forced to fuse with the dragon crystal, so he couldn't display the dragon crystal's full strength and his body was weakened. But the most important thing wasn't this. The most important thing was that his dragon crystal had mutated during the fusion process. He was a variant dragon, unable to completely fuse with the dragon crystal in his body. He Rui said. His body tilted and swayed as he knelt down on one knee. Our dragon blood is not enough to upgrade his dragon crystal. Could it be that there is no chance? In the sky, a black shadow quickly passed by. It was a lone black dragon, and it was the largest black dragon in the underworld. A roar rang out. King of Hell, die. Rising dragon's rage. A dragon's roar shook the world. When the King of Hell noticed the enemy, a transparent shield quickly appeared behind him, blocking this attack. He turned around and saw that the black dragon had directly entered the defensive spell formation. The little critter had just gotten a chance to catch its breath. When it saw the King of Hell staring in the direction of the defensive spell formation, it quickly attacked, Beast God's various techniques. Not only did it have to prevent the King of Hell from killing it, it also had to restrain the King of Hell. It couldn't let him continue attacking the defensive spell formation. Five colored flames rushed toward the King of Hell at the same time. The King of Hell instantly struck out with both palms, relying on his spiritual energy to directly disperse the little critter's attack. He narrowed his eyes slightly. You are very strong. I really want to subdue you. But since you are so stubborn and refuse to surrender, I can only kill you. You can run pretty well, but I bet that you will deliver yourself to my fist in the next attack. The King of Hell sneered. Bah, do you think I'm stupid? Deliver myself to your fist. The little critter retorted. The King of Hell only smiled slightly. Then, he suddenly turned around and charged toward the defensive spell formation. The King of Hell raised his right hand, and the air in his hand became blurry. God of the underworld, destructive stardust. At this moment, the little critter was dumbfounded. It turned out that it was the stupid one. Dad's bloodline inheritance hadn't ended yet. If the King of Hell were to break the spell formation now, Dad would definitely die. A white light flashed. The little critter didn't even think and stood in front of the defensive spell formation. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen was extremely anxious. He roared, "Little critter, dodge." A hand suddenly pressed down on Lu Chen. You can't do anything now. If you want to take revenge, then bear with it. The person who came was Xianlong. He hit Lu Chen's shoulder with his palm, then quickly stood in the eye of the spell formation and pierced his own chest with his sword. Xianlong, don't talk nonsense. I'm afraid that you will all die. Xianlong mercilessly interrupted. He Rui, his dragon crystal has mutated. Focus, and we will use the true dragon's blood to help him break through. At the same time, Lu Chen watched as the King of Hell's palm hit the little critter's chest. Lu Chen felt that his breathing was about to stop. little critter. Dad. The little critter couldn't care less about its injuries. It looked at Lu Chen from afar. I'm sorry, I'm useless. I can't accompany you anymore. After saying that, the little critter's slightly thin body slowly leaned forward. Dad, I'll always love you the most. Lu Chen's eyes were already blurred by tears, but he couldn't cry out loud. Chapter 1077. Little Beast. Lu Chen let out a heart-wrenching roar. Anger and grief had caused all the blood in Lu Chen's body to rush to his brain. With the mystic dragon's dragon blood, the Hell Dragon Chaos Blood formation suddenly changed, and the dragon scales on his body became restless. There was a loud bang. Endless golden spiritual energy exploded outwards, covering the sky and the earth. Like an army of thousands of men and horses, it swept through the entire battlefield with the force of thunder. Everyone was shocked by this powerful aura and looked in the direction of the formation in horror. Even the King of Hell's puppets were directly affected by the spiritual energy and stopped moving. What is this? What happened? Such powerful spiritual energy. What is going on? This is even more terrifying than the King of Hell's previous sovereign form. Could it be, however, before everyone had a chance to see what was going on, a streak of golden light shot toward the King of Hell at a speed that was too fast for the naked eye to follow. Bastard! Die! The King of Hell widened his eyes. How did this guy's speed suddenly become so fast? Golden light flashed, and a golden sword came crashing down. The King of Hell hurriedly blocked it with Ghost Soul. Another loud boom sounded, and the ground under the King of Hell's feet instantly cracked open 100-meter-long fissure. His left knee even went soft, and he almost knelt down. Damn it, how did this guy become so strong? The King of Hell quickly countered with a palm strike, forcing his opponent to retreat and quickly widening the distance between them. When the battle stopped temporarily, everyone could finally see the figure clearly. Golden dragon scales covered his entire body except for his head. Even the great void arm was covered in golden dragon scales. The silver gallbladder and the infinite celestial demon sword were also covered in dragon scales. At this moment, Lu Chen was like a white-haired god of war wearing golden armor. Lu Chen did not chase after him. Instead, he flashed in front of the little beast. Seeing the little beast's body rapidly decomposing, Lu Chen trembled all over. Little beast. The little beast opened its eyes slightly and smiled at Lu Chen. Dad, I can't hold on any longer. The stardust of destruction is too strong. I can't hold on any longer. Lu Chen's tears were like pearls from a broken necklace, dripping onto the little beast's body. You will be fine. You still have rising from the ashes. Yes, you still have rising from the ashes. The little beast forced a smile. Dad, rebirth also requires a medium, but the destructive stardust completely disintegrates all matter. Hearing the little beast's words, Lu Chen's last shred of hope was extinguished. He knew that what the little critter said was true. He had personally experienced the might of the destruction of a star. That was why he was so grieved. By the way, Dad, you look so handsome like this. Is this a new fashion? The little beast looked at Lu Chen's dragon scales strangely. Lu Chen's lips trembled as he choked out. No. No, then I can't wear it. Dad, what form are you in now? You are so strong. The little beast's voice became lower and lower. Chaos. Chaos Dragon God, after fusing with the Abyss Dragon bloodline, that unknown mutated dragon species finally had its own name. Chaos Dragon God. Chaos Dragon God. I have never heard of it. Dad is so strong. Dad, little beast is leaving. You have to take good care of yourself in the future. Also, little furball, little Yuan, rhubarb, big sister Lu, big sister Min. Everyone has to be safe. With that, the little beast leaned its head into Lu Chen's arms and closed its eyes. His body began to decompose faster and faster. The little beast was completely unable to resist the decomposition of the destructive stardust. Solipsistic, he is just a battle pet. How can you sacrifice so much for a battle pet? What a joke. A piercing voice came from afar. So, you are in the form of a dragon god. Very good. Let me see if the dragon god and the mad god can fight against me. Lu Chen gently put down the little beast and slowly stood up. Not even his golden armor and silver hair could hide the green smoke coming out of his eyes. He wielded the golden sword of the infinite fiend. Tiger descends the mountain. Holy Lotus Sword Heart. The chains around him were cut apart by the sword aura. Little Furball and Little Yuan regained their freedom. More importantly, the King of Hell found that he couldn't control the puppets anymore. The red eyes of the surrounding puppets suddenly dimmed, returning to their empty eye sockets. Lu Chen had cut off the King of Hell's puppet controlling technique with his sword aura. He is not my battle pet, he is my family. Lu Chen lowered his voice and stared at the King of Hell. You killed him. You won't be able to pay for it even if you die 100 times. This time, I will cut you into pieces. Lu Chen bellowed. Celestial body. Green smoke was still billowing from Lu Chen's eyes, which had never happened before. The green smoke was a side effect of his monster form. Whenever he was too angry to control his emotions, green smoke would come out from his eyes. Under normal circumstances, when Lu Chen was angry, he would often suppress his emotions. After all, this would affect his fighting. But this time, the smoke was billowing. He couldn't suppress it. The killing intent in his eyes was so strong that even those who were familiar with Lu Chen were frightened. The Dean seems to be suffering from inner demons. Yi Fan shook his head. The Dean didn't activate Heart of Celestial Body, inner demons. Inner demons? No, this time, there was no need for inner demons. He was already possessed. At the moment, everyone's attention was focused on the final battle between Lu Chen and the King of Hell. No one noticed that a black shadow flashed by, picked up the little beast, and disappeared. The puppets around them were temporarily out of control. The immortal army finally had a chance to catch their breath. At the same time, an unprecedented and horrifying battle was taking place on the battlefield. On one side was the King of Hell in his Lord of Hell form, and on the other side was the Nameless in her Chaos Dragon God form. The battle between the two had reached a point where no one could interfere. Boom, 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 boom. The two's attacks collided in the air, forming balls of spiritual energy that exploded rapidly and spread out for 1,000 meters. The immortal army's attributes were too low, so they had to stay away from the battlefield. Lord of Hell, Lord of all things. It was this move again. It was extremely fast and could directly penetrate the Void Guardian and the Black Tortoise shield. But this time, Lu Chen didn't dodge at all. Die. Holy Lotus Sword Heart. Previously, when Lu Chen attacked, King Yama was still able to dodge with ease. But now, Lu Chen's speed wasn't inferior to King Yama's in the slightest. He had no choice but to dodge the Holy Lotus Sword Heart's sharp edge. Do you want to die? The King of Hell instantly moved far away. But just as he stopped, a golden figure followed him like a shadow. The King of Hell dodged again, but Lu Chen chased after him relentlessly. After a few times, Lu Chen finally found an opportunity to attack. Void attack, void shattering. You're not done yet. The King of Hell roared. It was the first time he was forced into such a difficult situation. He was the Lord of Hell. How could he just accept being chased by someone in the underworld? You really think I'm afraid of you? Absolute Martial, void shattering. The two killer moves collided directly at this moment. A huge spiritual energy ball expanded between the two of them at an incredible speed. A huge amount of spiritual energy rolled rapidly, causing the spiritual energy ball to expand rapidly. In an instant, it had reached a diameter of more than 100 meters. Then, the spiritual energy ball couldn't withstand any more energy and exploded instantly. In the white light, the two figures were sent flying at the same time. But the golden figure suddenly stopped halfway and instantly caught up with the King of Hell. Die! Tiger descends the mountain. Holy Lotus Sword Heart. King Yama's eyes widened in anger. This guy was actually able to recover so quickly from the impact just now. The King of Hell couldn't dodge and could only use his shield. Astral Shield. I was waiting for your shield. Lu Chen said angrily. Unfortunately, your astral shield can't save your dog life this time. Sky-breaking sword. A golden light flashed. In the next second, Lu Chen was already standing behind the King of Hell. Chapter 1078. Sky-piercing sword. One move, Stardust shield, broken. The King of Hell looked at his chest in disbelief. A huge hole had appeared. This is impossible. You can actually hurt me. However, Lu Chen had killed millions of army of the dead. Naturally, he knew that in order to completely wipe out the army of the dead, he had to add fire elements to his attack. His nether fire was the bane of souls. However, this time, Lu Chen actually forgot to add nether fire to his attack. The King of Hell reacted quickly. He turned around and saw Lu Chen looking at him coldly. He snorted. Looks like you also have moments of carelessness. You didn't grasp the opportunity just now. You won't have a second chance. Lu Chen looked coldly at the King of Hell. I said that I would tear you into pieces. Letting you die under nether fire is too easy for you. The immortal army's minds buzzed. Nameless deliberately didn't use nether fire just now. Was it because killing the King of Hell in one move wouldn't appease Nameless' anger? Foam Lai and God Fiend had taken care of each other in the battle just now. Ronger stood beside Yi Fan and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. When your Dean's temper explodes, it's too scary. His opponent is the King of Hell, the strongest in the underworld in 1,000 years. That opportunity just now was fleeting. However, Yi Fan only stared coldly at the King of Hell and said fiercely, "That's the Dean of our demonic academy." The King of Hell clutched his chest. Finally, a trace of fear flashed across his eyes. If Nameless had made a mistake just now, it meant that Nameless had been careless. However, if he had done it on purpose, it meant that Nameless was still clear-headed even in a fit of rage. It was just that, he became cruel. Lu Chen walked towards the King of Hell step by step. Seeing this, the King of Hell roared, "How dare you be so arrogant in front of me, the underworld ruler? Kill!" After saying that, he ignored the pain and shot towards Lu Chen. Lu Chen coldly snorted and rushed towards the King of Hell at the same time. The two of them instantly met at the center of the battlefield. Solipsistic. Die for me. God of the underworld, destruction of the three realms. A giant god's shadow appeared on King of Hell's body. Although no one knew which god it was, they could guess that it was the Lord of Underworld. Lu Chen's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets as he roared, "King of Hell. Pay with your life for the little beast." Attack of the Void, dragon breaks the 9 heavens. There was a loud bang. The entire area, as far as the eye could see, was shaking, and the heavens were collapsing. This time, even the spiritual energy ball did not have time to form. After the super skills of both sides collided, a shocking spiritual energy storm erupted. The immortal army and the puppet army were directly pushed back by the spiritual energy storm, and many people directly spat out large mouthfuls of blood. The center of the battlefield was like the core of the scorching sun. It was impossible to look directly at it. After the black special rocks on the ground cracked, they slowly rose and were directly crushed into dust. Giant Wuxia was overturned on the ground, and the 9 beasts' exquisite pagoda collapsed. The 9 beasts on top of the pagoda all spat out blood. After releasing the chains, they fled in all directions. Li Wei broke free from the chains, grabbed the black bead in front of her, and hid behind the exquisite pagoda, observing the battlefield in horror. The 2 super experts' arms collided, and a moment later, the King of Hell suddenly screamed. "Ah! My arm!" In the next second, the King of Hell's left arm directly shattered. However, this time, Lu Chen did not give the King of Hell any chance. He held 2 weapons with both hands, the Hellfire Silver Guts in his left hand and the Limitless Sword in his right. Tiger descends the mountain. Sacred Lotus Sword Heart. Tiger descends the mountain. Way of the Spear, Empyrean Spear. Using 2 skills with both hands and with the support of Tiger descends the mountain, he attacked with double the number of attacks. Lu Chen's attacks were so fast that the naked eye could not see them clearly. The King of Hell's body was hit again and again, and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. "Ah! You lunatic! Stop! Stop!" The King of Hell wailed in pain. However, Lu Chen did not listen to the King of Hell. His attacks fell on the King of Hell like raindrops. A moment later, the King of Hell's body was so badly damaged that it could not be recognized. Dismembered into pieces. Far more than that. Directly cut off his bones and flesh while he was still alive. Even those who had been on the battlefield for a long time could not help but gasp at this scene. It was too bloody, too terrifying. Little Green, on the other hand, was already sobbing uncontrollably when she saw this scene. Not many people knew better than her what kind of person Lu Chen was. Back in the wilderness, when he met the butcher who was addicted to killing, Lu Chen said that he would return the favor, but in the end, he could not do it and directly killed that person. He would decisively kill his enemies, but in the end, he was unable to kill his enemies. However, this time, he actually used such a cruel method to kill the King of Hell. This could only mean that at this moment, he was extremely angry. The death of Little Beast made him lose his mind. After some time, people were horrified to find that the ruler of the underworld, the King of Hell, was only left with his head. Although beheading was not a terrifying thing in Jiutian, if one thought about it carefully, they would be terrified to the point that their hair stood on end. Nameless did not behead the King of Hell. He only tore his body into pieces, leaving only his head. The King of Hell was actually not completely dead, but this ruler of the underworld, a super powerhouse, a madman who tried to conquer the entire 9th heaven, had fear in his eyes. Lu Chen twisted the spear in his left hand, infusing it with the underworld's fire, and coldly looked at the King of Hell. "You killed Little Beast, your sin is unforgivable." After that, he stabbed the King of Hell's eye socket, completely ending the King of Hell. After this fierce battle, only Lu Chen was left on the battlefield. Many immortal soldiers and the puppet army were watching in shock from afar. The level of the battle just now had already left these people dumbfounded. Fortunately, even if Lu Chen's method was extremely cruel, he was still representing the young world in this battle. Many people finally reacted. Heavens, this is a battle between peak 6th heaven battle strength. It's too terrifying. Nameless won. Nameless, won. The 6th heaven is saved. I didn't expect that the one to save the 6th heaven in the end would be a human. Nameless, solipsistic, too terrifying. There were cheers all around, but Lu Chen did not seem to hear it. After killing the King of Hell, Lu Chen's heart was like dead ashes. When he looked back at where Little Beast was, it had already disappeared. It should have been completely disintegrated. Not even a skeleton was left. Lu Chen dejectedly took 2 steps back. He said in a trembling voice, "Little Beast, Dad helped you, take revenge." After that, he could not help but cry. Yi Tian carefully walked in front of Lu Chen. Dean, Lu Chen raised his head, his eyes no longer emitted green smoke, but they were red. Dean, please restrain your grief, but the most important thing is to stabilize the ancient shrine. Tian said softly. Lu Chen endured his grief and nodded. Since he had already come this far, he had to deal with this matter properly. I understand. After saying that, he cut off the king of hell's evil demon horn. The moment the evil demon horn was cut off, a loud rumble came from the ancient shrine. Everyone stared at the ancient soul shrine in shock, not knowing what had happened inside. Lu Chen thought for a bit and picked up the evil demon horn. Old E, count the casualties. Also, look after Li Wei. I'll go take a look. Tian could not bear it. This person was clearly in pain, but he still had to worry about this matter. Don't worry, leave this to us. Dean, be careful. Tian looked at Lu Chen with heartache. Lu Chen nodded and walked towards the ancient soul shrine alone. Chapter 1079. Stepping into the Eternal Soul Palace, Lu Chen heard the cries of countless ghosts. This place did not seem like a palace, but more like hell. The palace was larger than Lu Chen had imagined. There was no floor inside, only a corridor against the wall. In the middle was a pitch-black abyss. The abyss was somewhat illusory, as if it was not truly deep underground, but the entrance to a black hole in another region. In the abyss, one could see countless departed souls. Their bodies were only pitch-black silhouettes that were very blurry. They hugged their heads and let out mournful wails. In the middle of the abyss, there was a dark purple bead that was currently dim. They were probably shocked by this scene. Their pain might have been caused by Lu Chen killing the king of hell right after being controlled, causing them to suddenly lose control, causing their minds to go haywire. Suddenly, someone in the abyss went crazy and tore at the surrounding departed souls. Walking up the Eternal Soul Palace floor by floor, Lu Chen saw even more abyss. This also indicated that these abyss were not true abysses. More accurately, they were open entrances to black holes. I knew it. Otherwise, how could such a small soul palace contain billions of departed souls? Lu Chen said. At the top of each abyss, there was a dim bead. However, no departed soul paid attention to this bead. They began to go crazy. Lu Chen frowned. He deduced that the king of hell was using this bead to brainwash the departed souls. However, the bead had no effect and the departed souls were becoming more and more restless. Finally, he arrived at the 7th floor. On this floor, he saw 3 corpses lying in the corridor. Their deaths were very similar. There were no obvious wounds on their bodies. Their eyes were white and they were foaming at the mouth. The badge on their chests clearly wrote 9-star Ghost King Realm. Could it be the other 3 Ghost Kings? Lu Chen frowned slightly. The 3 corpses were facing the bead at the top. There were no other intruders here. Although the 3 Ghost Kings were not as strong as the King of Hell, they were definitely not weak. Yet, they had all died here. It doesn't look like he was killed in battle. He might have been devoured by the bead. With so many dead souls and so many experts among them, it was not easy to control their minds. Because of this, even if Lu Chen killed his way to Myriad Soul Palace, these people could not leave their posts. Now that Lu Chen had killed the King of Hell, these dead souls had gone out of control. No matter how strong the 3 Ghost Kings were, they couldn't resist the backlash of so many dead souls. In the end, they died. It looks like the soul is about to go out of control. Lu Chen frowned. He only knew that he had to kill the King of Hell, but who would have thought that the 3 Ghost Kings had already taken control of the soul while they were fighting to the death? Now that it suddenly went out of control, Lu Chen was caught off guard. Lu Chen checked the devil's horn. Is this thing still useful? At this moment, the 2 fiend horns emitted a faint black fog, and the fog slowly flew towards the northern wall. Lu Chen followed the fog and arrived in front of the wall. There were 2 circular holes in the wall, and the size was just right for the devil's horn. Lu Chen thought for a moment, and tried to fit the 2 devil's horns in. Once the devil's horns were fitted, they immediately transformed into a huge illusion. The tip of the illusion's devil's horns pointed at the bead. The originally dim bead gradually reacted, and slowly began to rotate. The dead souls in the abyss saw the bead rotate, and all raised their heads to look at the bead. It was the same on every level. The agitation of the dead souls was finally alleviated, but Lu Chen did not know how to completely restore the underworld to its original state. At this moment, the wall in front of Lu Chen emitted a dull sound, and then the wall slowly opened. There was actually another room behind the wall. Lu Chen frowned. Perhaps the key to solving this problem was in this room. The room seemed to have been meticulously arranged. It looked like a bedroom, and there was a large bed that was 3 to 4 meters long and 2 to 3 meters wide. The King of Hell's bedroom? Lu Chen said in astonishment. There were some documents and accounts beside the bed, and they were all information about the 4 main cities. There was also a book about the myriad ancient soul palace. Lu Chen looked through it, and found a lot of useful information. Lu Chen hurriedly began to look for clues, but he inadvertently saw a small image stone on the desk, and it looked very old. After Lu Chen injected spirit energy, the image stone projected an image. In the image, a small boy with a small horn on his head was following a tall and sturdy man, and they were cultivating in the courtyard. A beautiful woman smiled as she walked out of the room with fruits. The beautiful woman saw that the 2 were still cultivating, and said with a smile, "Cultivate later, eat some fruits first." The man smiled, and pulled the little boy to the table. He pushed aside some unknown fruits for him. "You must be thirsty, eat more." Seeing the boy eat the fruits, the husband and wife looked at each other and smiled. The man rubbed the boy's head. "Little Ming, don't worry about what others say. It doesn't matter if our stats are lower than others, as long as we work harder than others, we might not be worse than them in the future." The boy nodded heavily. "I used the image stone to record the cultivation situation just now. You have to see what you did wrong." "Dad, I know. I will definitely work hard," the boy said firmly. The image was very short, only a few minutes long, and it recorded the most ordinary daily life. However, after Lu Chen saw it, he felt an indescribable feeling in his heart. That boy should be the king of hell when he was young, and he once had a happy family. However, Lu Chen already knew what happened later. His mother was burned to death by her clansmen, and his father was heavily injured. Then, he killed his own father with his own hands. Such a cold-blooded person actually kept this image stone. Perhaps, in the endless years, he became the strongest person, but also the one who suffered the most. Taking a deep breath, Lu Chen let out a long sigh. Then, Lu Chen smashed the image stone with his palm. But, the image stone didn't completely shatter. In the middle of the image stone, there was a slip of paper. Lu Chen picked up the small wooden tablet in surprise. There were several words written on it. "If someone can obtain this slip of paper, it means that I am already dead. Then, I should thank you. Because to me, death is more like a form of release. If you want to restore the underworld to its original state, you must first comprehend the concept of stardust and break down the 7 layers of floating pearls. The concept of stardust originates from the myriad soul temple. Go deep into the land of departed souls and comprehend it yourself." Lu Chen frowned. This king of hell is probably more conflicted than anyone else. Lu Chen looked at the myriad soul temple's information. Although it recorded the number of departed souls, the time, the formation, and where they went, it didn't mention how to restore the underworld to its original state. It seemed like he could only take a risk. Lu Chen walked out of the room and directly entered the land of departed souls on the top floor. Chapter 1080. Lu Chen thought that he would fall into a large number of dead souls, but in fact, he didn't plunge into a pile of dead souls. At this time, Lu Chen stood on an unknown planet. Perhaps this planet was too old, it was barren and lifeless, and the ground was still faintly shaking. This is... Lu Chen looked around in surprise, his face blank. At this time, the ground suddenly shook violently, and then, with a deafening noise, the entire planet exploded from the center. This level of explosion was far more violent than any powerhouse's move that Lu Chen had ever seen. He widened his eyes and quickly activated all the states that could be activated, protecting his whole body with Void Guard. Damn it, is this King of Hell's trap? Under the white light, Lu Chen felt that he would definitely die here this time. But strangely, he didn't feel the impact of spiritual power. Is this an illusion? Lu Chen was a little surprised, but he quickly calmed down. The violent explosion of the planet did not affect him. Lu Chen looked around. In the violent explosion, the planet's crust and core seemed to have evaporated in an instant, disappearing without a trace. With a flash of white light, there was nothing here. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. Could it be that the concept of star-dust destruction was comprehended from here? The next moment, Lu Chen appeared on another planet again. This was the same as the previous planet, barren. Lu Chen could feel that the ground under his feet began to shake more and more violently. This was a sign that the planet's destruction was imminent. Even if it's real this time, I can't run away anyway. With his previous experience, Lu Chen mustered up his courage and entered the state of spiritual energy mastery and selflessness. Explosion, destruction, decomposition, annihilation. In this way, Lu Chen felt the spiritual power changes when the planet was destroyed on each dying planet. After experiencing it again and again, Lu Chen also witnessed the birth of some new planets. Is this the final result of all things? Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, even planets are the same. It seems to be the exact opposite of the process of creation. I should be able to comprehend it. And those decomposed elements become the materials of a new planet, and the cycle repeats for 100 generations. The King of Hell could comprehend the destruction stardust, and Lu Chen himself could comprehend the creation space. It would be easier for him to comprehend it than the King of Hell. My creation space always feels like something is missing. Creating life is important, but most of the spiritual energy needs to rely on external forces. To form a complete system, creation alone is not enough. After an unknown amount of time, Lu Chen finally awoke from his trance. At this moment, the expression in his eyes was completely different from before. Raising his hand, Lu Chen created a miniature creation space and injected spiritual energy into it to form a sword shadow. Star Destroyer. Lu Chen's eyes widened. The sword shadow that had just formed suddenly disintegrated and disappeared. I've learned the Star Destroyer, but I can't fuse it with the creation space for now. Lu Chen thought about it and decided to leave first. This place could only teach him the Star Destroyer, not a place for him to fuse two great concepts, so there was no point in staying. In the depths of the Star River, Lu Chen originally couldn't find the exit, but when he saw the slowly rotating pearl above his head, he finally found the direction. The direction of the pearl should be the exit. As expected, after flying for a while, Lu Chen came out of the land of departed souls. Returning to the Eternal Soul Palace, Lu Chen adjusted his state and used 9 void steps to arrive in front of the rotating pearl, slapping it with his palm. Star Destroyer. Lu Chen's Star Destroyer didn't seem to have reached the level of the King of Hell, but the surface of the pearl still changed. The pearl began to decompose on its own. It's effective, but I'll have to wait for a while. Lu Chen let out a sigh of relief and quickly entered the lower levels of the Soul Palace to decompose the 7 floating pearls. Returning to the 7th level of the Eternal Soul Palace, Lu Chen watched as the pearl decomposed into starlight that fell into the land of departed souls. The departed souls didn't go berserk this time. Although their eyes were lifeless, they were exceptionally calm. Death was destruction, but at the same time, it was a new life. They needed to recognize and accept this, forget the past, and begin a new life in the underworld. The gazes of the departed souls changed. They were no longer as lifeless as before, as if they had a soul. Without the guidance of the floating pearls, I don't know how these departed souls will truly enter the underworld. Lu Chen was somewhat worried. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. I didn't think that you would be the one to restore order to the underworld. Lu Chen looked around in surprise, but he couldn't see anyone. Just listening to this old voice, Lu Chen felt it was particularly familiar. No need to look, I'm not in the underworld. The voice said, you don't need to worry about where they went. To truly forget their past life's memories, they still need to cross the bridge of helplessness. This isn't something you need to worry about. Mengpe. Lu Chen's eyes widened as he remembered the owner of the voice. Haha, you still remember me. However, you seem to have forgotten that there's a girl waiting for you. I didn't forget. However, after coming to the 6th layer of heaven, things happened one after another. My academy hasn't even opened the lower realm teleportation door, so I can't return to the 2nd layer of heaven. Perhaps your fate is like this. Mengpe sighed. Mengpe, is that girl still here? Lu Chen asked. Unfortunately, she didn't wait for you. Perhaps you'll meet again in the future, but at that time, I don't know if you'll be friends or foes. Lu Chen frowned. Who was that girl? What happened to her? When he had the chance, he had to go to the river of forgetfulness to retrieve her memories. Mengpe, Lu Chen still has something he wants to ask. Lu Chen suddenly thought of something. Since you're in charge of guarding the bridge of helplessness, even the departed souls have to pass by you. Then, did you see the little beast? Your battle pet? No. No. Could it be? Lu Chen's heart was filled with grief. Did Mengpe not remember, or did the destruction of the stardust cause the little beast's soul to scatter? Lu Chen didn't know when Mengpe had left. It was a long time before he came back to his senses. He glanced at the Eternal Soul Palace. The departed souls were no longer fighting, and order had finally been restored. He sighed and walked out of the Eternal Soul Palace. After leaving the Eternal Soul Palace, Lu Chen saw a 6-petal spider lily fall next to the King of Hell. He bent down and picked it up. Little Green, this is the underworld flower, right? Boss. Little Green looked at the dazed Lu Chen with heartache. If it were any other time, he would have been jumping up and down in joy. But the little beast had died in battle. How could he be happy? It's the underworld flower, Little Green said in a low voice. Is this one enough for you? It's enough. Each person only needs one petal. Lu Chen nodded, put away the underworld flower, and then looked at the battlefield. On the battlefield, the immortal army was sorting out the corpses. The immortal army was weak and had suffered heavy casualties against these puppets. The original 1 million army of the dead hadn't participated in the battle for long, but now, there were only 200,000 to 300,000 of them. There was also the 6th heaven's main battlefield. Even if the King of Hell died and the Eternal Soul Palace recovered, the immortal army still needed to defeat the invading army of the dead to be considered a true victory. Who knew how many people would die in this underworld invasion? Chapter 1081. Where are the netherworld dragons? Lu Chen suddenly thought of this matter. After upgrading the dragon crystal for him, they disappeared without a trace. Even those who were seriously injured had been taken away by others. Lu Chen really hoped to find them, but he could not find any traces of them even after searching the entire battlefield. Just as Lu Chen was feeling surprised, Mabe and the others walked over. Nameless, we have to leave this place first. Your side is also not in a good state. If we encounter the army of the dead now, it will be difficult to deal with them. Lu Chen's dual heavens might had already expired, so he was currently in a weak state. Although the king of hell was dead, there was still a large amount of the army of the dead here. "Where is Li Wei?" Lu Chen asked. "She fainted in front of the Twinkle Gem Pagoda. We need to send her back to the academy for treatment." The battle had just ended, so there were still many things to take care of. Lu Chen could only temporarily put aside the matter of the netherworld dragons and retreat with the immortal army. When preparing to leave the underworld, Lu Chen glanced at the underworld gate. This entrance should have been created by the king of hell. Once he recovered, he would return to close this entrance. The underworld and the yang world should not be connected. After Lu Chen and the others left, a group of people walked out from the surrounding forest. These people were the netherworld dragons. "Xian Long, I told you that guy is different from the king of hell," He Rui said with a smile. Xian Long sighed, "That solipsistic guy is really different. If the underworld can be restored to its original state, it would be a good thing for all the deceased souls and the various races living in the underworld." "Then what about this guy?" someone behind asked. Xian Long turned around and looked at the young man wrapped in a transparent spiritual energy ball with a frown. If Lu Chen did not leave at this moment, he would definitely cry out in alarm. The young man in the spiritual energy ball was the little critter. Inside the energy ball, his body didn't continue to decompose. However, he still hadn't woken up and was floating in the middle of the energy ball. Xian Long said, "Now that everyone has consumed too much essence blood, we can only protect him for now. Wait for us to recover for a few days. If the solipsistic really doesn't interfere with the matters of the underworld, then we can save him." "You still don't believe in solipsistic?" He Rui asked. Xian Long shook his head. "He didn't disappoint me. However, after so many years, I no longer trust anyone." After Xingyuan Continent's team returned from the underworld, Li Wei was directly sent to Fenglai Sacred Court's temporary residence in the Demonic Academy. Even though Lu Chen was a little worried, it wasn't convenient for him to head to the Women's Academy. In any case, Yao He was here. If she needed anything, Yao He would come back to find her. On the side of the Demonic Academy, the number of casualties was the least. However, among the 1,000 people who entered the underworld, more than 300 had died. Nameless, this is how war is. No one is spared. A sea of clouds shook his head and sighed. That's right. Actually, the invasion of the underworld this time affected almost all the academies in the sixth heaven. None of the academies were able to escape unscathed from this battle. The main battle hasn't ended yet. There should be more casualties, Long Xiang said. However, the good thing is that the army of the dead shouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. Long Xiang's prophecy quickly came true. On Xingyuan Continent, the army of the dead's offensive took a nosedive. After 2 or 3 defeats, they actually retreated to the underworld. On Qingze Continent, the army of the dead even directly retreated. Good news came one after another from various continents. The army of the dead, which was still very strong, started to retreat. Those who didn't retreat were quickly defeated by the defending army after a few rounds of counterattacks. At the same time, in the underworld, more and more immortal soldiers attacked the other entrances and set up defensive lines. The invasion of the army of the dead, which originally couldn't see the light of dawn, suddenly became one-sided. The army of the dead was simply unable to withstand a single blow. These few days, Li Wei didn't wake up. However, Yao He came to find Lu Chen and told him that her sister was only weak at the moment. Only then did Lu Chen heave a sigh of relief. 3 days later, Zhongshan Ji's Mabe personally came to the Demonic Academy and invited Lu Chen to participate in the conference held by Qingze Continent. "Nameless, you must go. The Lord of Celestial Fortress specifically invited you to participate. After all, you saved the Yang world." Mabe followed behind Lu Chen and said, "I'm not going." Lu Chen flatly refused. I know that you're in a bad mood after losing your beloved son and student. However, we still have to announce this matter and let the other continents know the truth. Lu Qin said faintly, the King of Hell's control over the souls of the dead has already lost its effect. The army of the dead is unable to withstand a single blow. The war is about to end. You can just inform the other continents about this matter. In a few days, I will go to the underworld again and see if I can close the entrances to the underworld. I don't want to care about anything else. This. Mabe had a difficult expression, you've already killed the King of Hell. Why are you still afraid of going to a conference? Actually, you said it yourself. The war is about to end. This time, other than announcing the matter of the underworld to the public, they're also holding a celebration party. If you, the main character, don't go, what's the point of the celebration party? We have to tell others who entered the underworld and killed the King of Hell. Hearing this, Lu Chen's expression darkened. He said unhappily, who killed the King of Hell? I'll tell you. You'll know once you see the list of the army of the dead. Lu Chen threw the book on the side of the table in front of Mabe. The book opened naturally, revealing the words on it. List of the dead, Banyan, Haoyue, Xianmeng, Tong Liayun. Every page was a list of the demonic academy's dead students. If they hadn't provided Lu Chen with attributes, Lu Chen would have died long ago. Mabe was speechless. This time, the army of the dead had invaded and lost countless people. Lu Chen didn't want to take all the credit for himself. Celebration party. Only the people from Celestial Fortress could think of this. None of you have any objections? Was your brain kicked by a donkey? The great Sengoku didn't dare to be angry after being scolded by Lu Chen, whether it was Lu Chen's contributions or Lu Chen's strength, he wasn't someone a Zongxian Go Sengoku could compare to. Naturally, he was scolded to be obedient. You can go. I'll go to the underworld in a few days and settle this matter. Don't bother me about the underworld. With that, Lu Chen turned and walked back to his room. Mabe looked at Lu Chen's back and sighed. How long had it been? The dean of the lower school of the divine demons actually dared to chase him out. Sigh, the pavilion master was right. This person is definitely not a fish in a pond. He'll turn into a dragon when he encounters a storm. That's why we wanted to suppress him. But now, how can we suppress this guy? Even the King of Hell was killed by him, however, he's a man of his word. With this kid's personality, he'll probably represent Zongxian Gu in the Prodigy competition in a few months. The Prodigy competition was the most prestigious competition in the entire sixth heaven. The prizes were plentiful, and it was also the main method for the various main schools, immortal academies, and factions to raise their reputation. However, although Nameless' strength was shocking, according to the rules of the Prodigy competition, it was unknown if this kid could enter the top 10. Chapter 1082. On the 10th day of his return, Lu Chen's weakened state was long gone, and his soul-body fusion had also fully recovered. He was also more aware of the Dragon God state. The Dragon God state was actually a true dragon attack that he could only unleash when he had exhausted his stamina. It was just that he could only use it once before, but now he could maintain this state for 30 minutes. Moreover, he had obtained super recovery ability, defense ability, and the increase in attack power was stronger than before. His attack power had increased by 200%. In addition, he also gained a super close combat single-target attack skill, Dragon Breaks the Nine Heavens. It was the move that Lu Chen used to defeat the King of Hell. The cooldown of this move was as long as a week. It could be used under normal conditions, but it could only be used in the Dragon God state. At the same time, with the help of the Abyss Dragon, Lu Chen's weakened state was completely eliminated. He didn't expect that this time in the underworld, he would gain a blessing in disguise. He upgraded the level of the Chaos Dragon God and learned to destroy the Stardust, however, because of the death of the little critter and the sacrifice of the students, all of this was not worth being happy about. Lu Chen sat in the room. Little Green poured him a glass of wine. The little furball was lying on the equally depressed Little Source. Xiao Min and Rhubarb were leaning on Little Source, looking listless. At this moment, the door was pushed open. Lu Chen looked up and found two super beauties standing at the door. Seeing these two people, Lu Chen's mood finally improved. Li Wei, when did you wake up? Yao He smiled and said, I woke up a few days ago, but I saw that you were in a bad mood recently, so I didn't disturb you. Li Wei nodded and walked in with Yao He. I heard that you have been drinking alone in your room all this time. Li Wei walked to Lu Chen's side. It's a pity that those students died. They had a great future. But Lu Chen, we can't protect all the students. This is their own choice. You have to respect their decision. This is the greatest affirmation for them. I think your students would also like to be recognized by you, the dean. Lu Chen sighed. They're all good. Li Wei and Yao He sat down. If that's the case, you should let it go. Oh, by the way, there's one more thing. I wanted to tell you earlier, but I've been feeling unwell for the past few days, so I didn't have the chance until now. Li Wei said. Lu Chen frowned slightly. If your body hasn't fully recovered, just let Yao He tell me. It's not that I haven't recovered, but... Li Wei said, hey, I'll tell you later. Let's talk about your son first. Little beast. How many sons do you have? Li Wei looked at Lu Chen in surprise. Lu Chen was stunned for a moment. I only have one. Of course it's him. Li Wei rolled her eyes at Lu Chen and whispered, you didn't tell me that your son is so big. Well, little beast should be alive. Hearing this, Lu Chen stood up immediately. What? Little beast is alive. It wasn't just him, the other fellows in the room also seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. Just a moment ago, they were still crestfallen, but now they suddenly surrounded Li Wei and Yao He. Roar! Squeak, squeak, squeak. Woof, woof, woof. Is little beast still alive? Li Wei had seen the strength of little hairy ball and originator. When these two guys fought, it was extremely bloody and cruel. Being stared at by these two ferocious beasts, Li Wei and Yao He felt a little uncomfortable. Lu Chen found that they were a little nervous, so he quickly explained, Li Wei, don't worry about them. They are very friendly. Li Wei couldn't help scolding Lu Chen in her heart. Friendly? Who are you kidding? That little white mouse looks harmless, but it eats people alive. You call that friendly? Fortunately, Li Wei was also mentally strong. Anyway, they shouldn't hurt her. When you were fighting with the King of Hell, I saw someone take little beast away. Li Wei said, they were the black dragons who came to help you. Lu Chen widened his eyes. Are you sure you saw it clearly? Li Wei laughed. Have you forgotten? I can see the level of the badge. How could I not see it clearly? At this moment, Lu Chen, who had been in despair, suddenly saw hope. If there was anyone who could save Little Beast in that situation, it would be the underworld dragon tribe. It was them who saved him when he was almost disintegrated. It's them. Although I don't know why they took Little Beast away, at least they wouldn't kill him. If they didn't do anything, Little Beast would have been disintegrated. There was no need for them to do anything. Then, it's very likely that they wanted to save him. Li Wei frowned. You're not familiar with them? Then why would they help you? Lu Chen had already thought about this question. Maybe it has something to do with the King of Hell. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's just that I haven't been able to find them after the battle. Lu Chen stood up and paced back and forth, muttering to himself. No, I have to go to the underworld. I have to find those black dragons, I have to find Little Beast. Just in time to close the door to the underworld over there. I want to go now. Li Wei hurriedly pulled the impatient Lu Chen. I'll go with you. I think I should be able to help. Lu Chen looked at Li Wei. You've just recovered. It's better for you to rest in the academy. Li Wei pursed her lips, thought for a moment and said, actually, I didn't say it clearly just now. A few days ago, I felt unwell. But it's not that kind of unwell, but, Lu Chen acted like he didn't understand. Li Wei, what are you talking about? Li Wei raised her head and looked at Lu Chen. Finally, she said, I seem to have become stronger. Lu Chen's eyes widened. He didn't expect that he wasn't the only one who benefited from the disaster. Li Wei had also become stronger. Since Li Wei was fine, with her strength, following Lu Chen shouldn't be a problem. Yao he didn't follow the two into the underworld. She still had many things to deal with at Fomlai Academy. Moreover, she seemed to be deliberately not following. After returning to the underworld, Li Wei suggested that Lu Chen head to the Eternal Soul Palace. When we get there, I'll see if I can find them. Lu Chen remembered that Li Wei had the ability to find people, so he should listen to her on this matter. Lu Chen summoned his shuttle and the two headed in the direction of the Eternal Soul Palace. Along the way, they saw that the four main cities were in a mess. It seemed that the four main cities had been abandoned. Instead, they saw a large number of soul weapons in the wilderness. It seems that the army of the dead is already disintegrating, Li Wei said. Lu Chen nodded. Many of the army of the dead were controlled by the King of Hell. With the King of Hell dead, they regained their freedom and naturally won't work for the army of the dead. The underworld will gradually form its own new order, but it will take some time. When the souls of the Eternal Soul Palace, Lu Chen was still speaking frankly when Li Wei suddenly turned her head and put her face in front of Lu Chen without any warning. I don't want to hear about the underworld. That pair of bright and clear eyes looked straight at Lu Chen. Her pink lips were just inches away from Lu Chen. The faint fragrance of Li Wei's body entered his nose, making him feel a little dizzy. At such a close distance, Li Wei's perfect facial features and white skin were perfect no matter how one looked at it. Lu Chen was a bit nervous. Why was this woman so close to him? There was clearly a lot of space on the heavenly shuttle. Then, what do you want to hear? Lu Chen didn't know what to do. Li Wei's eyes were smiling. It'll take more than a day to reach the Eternal Soul Palace. Here, there's only the two of us, Lu Chen frowned. Just the two of us. But Lu Chen quickly understood and nodded. Amen, yes, the others are all ghosts. How mysterious. Chapter 1083. Li Wei's expression was a little stiff. Are you all a ghost? You're the ghost. What's in this guy's head? Was the hint I gave him not strong enough? Or is he not interested in me? Or is he very loyal to his wife, so he's rejecting me in a roundabout way? But in their previous interactions, Lu Chen didn't seem like he had a wife. Moreover, when I used the illusion, he saw my scantily clad appearance with a nosebleed. He should be very interested in me, as if he still retained his virginity. It was said that some technological worlds had the technology to cultivate embryos. Li Wei once thought that this was how Little Beast came about. Li Wei, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Lu Chen asked with concern. You've just recovered from a serious illness. Although the underworld dragon clan probably won't make things difficult for us, we still have to be prepared. It's better to rest more. Li Wei blinked and came back to her senses. It seemed that Lu Chen didn't think in that direction at all. That's right, this guy's mind was probably only thinking about saving Little Beast. Oh, it's nothing. That, is Little Beast really your son? I mean, the kind that reproduces normally. Li Wei sat beside Lu Chen and tilted her head to look at Lu Chen. Lu Chen looked at Li Wei and felt that there was no need to hide anything from her. He said, "Little Beast is actually my battle pet, but I created Little Beast, so he calls me father. According to age, Little Beast is actually only 2 or 3 years old. It's just that that guy is growing a little faster." Li Wei finally understood. "I see," Lu Chen smiled. "I don't want to make this matter public. Little Beast is in human form, and I don't treat him as a battle pet. Maybe one day, he can have his own world." Li Wei nodded. Although this idea was novel, it wasn't strange if it was Lu Chen. After a moment of silence, Li Wei suddenly asked, "With your strength, there should be a lot of girls who like you. Do you have a girl that you like?" Speaking of personal feelings, Lu Chen helplessly shook his head. "AI, how can there be that many people who like me? I can look good after transforming, but that's still a transformation. My original appearance is very ordinary. In Jiutian, it's very unremarkable. Occasionally, there are some good girls, but in the end, we're not fated. Sometimes I see some students who can't grasp the opportunity. I'm really worried for them. If it's me, I'll take them." Lu's angry. Li Wei almost vomited blood when she heard this. This person was impeccable in other aspects, but when it came to relationships, was there something wrong with his self-awareness? Take it. Turn it time. At this time, the Netherworld army was in chaos. They could barely take care of themselves, so no one paid attention to this flying shuttle. The next day, the two of them smoothly arrived at the Myriad Soul Palace area. However, the Eternal Soul Palace was currently surrounded by a black fog. The flying shuttle couldn't enter. However, Lu Chen unexpectedly discovered that Li Wei couldn't enter the defensive formation, but he could. He entered the Soul Palace to take a look. On the 7th floor of the Soul Palace was quiet and orderly. The defensive formation's spirit energy came from the King of Hell's devil horns. Perhaps it was because the devil horns recognized Lu Chen as their new master that they allowed him to enter. It seemed that the devil horns were originally a treasure of the underworld. After confirming that the Eternal Soul Palace was normal, Lu Chen walked out of the defensive formation. At this moment, a black dragon rose from the forest in the distance. The black dragon looked at Lu Chen from afar and hovered there. Lu Chen's eyes widened. He hastily called out the flying shuttle and chased after it with Li Wei. The black dragon was clearly waiting for Lu Chen. Seeing Lu Chen's group arrive, it appeared. The flying shuttle's speed couldn't compare to the black dragon's, but the black dragon didn't fly too far. It maintained a suitable distance until it entered a dense forest and disappeared. Lu Chen quickly chased after it. After landing, Lu Chen and Li Wei were shocked by the scene in front of them. This place was like a paradise. All kinds of spider lilies covered the grass. There was a small spring to the side that converged into a pool behind the village. There were several acres of fields in front of the village that were planted with unknown crops. A few plainly dressed villagers saw Lu Chen and Li Wei. They smiled at the two of them and then continued with their farm work. Nongfu Mountain spring with some fields. Lu Chen sighed. This kind of leisurely life was truly enviable. From the expressions of these villagers, Lu Chen was even more certain that they had no ill intentions. At this moment, He Rui walked over. "Solipsistic, you're here. We've been waiting for you for a long time." Lu Chen slightly cupped his fists. "I didn't have time to thank you last time before I left. Let's talk inside." He Rui's attitude was kind. He smiled at Li Wei and said, "You must be that girl from the Heavenly Fox clan. Since you're Solipsistic's friend, come along." "Thank you." Lu Chen and He Rui followed into a farmhouse. This should be the largest house in the village. When they arrived, Lu Chen found that there were already 20 to 30 people waiting. When these people saw Lu Chen, they all stood up and nodded at Lu Chen with a smile. Sitting in the middle were Qianlong and the old man. Both of them also stood up. Solipsistic, you're here. Lu Chen walked over and cupped his fists. Greetings, seniors. We meet again. Speaking of which, this was the third time they had met. Brother Du Quang, Miss Li Wei, come and sit. The old man called out. We don't dare to call ourselves seniors. We're just a little older. Speaking of which, you've saved our Netherworld Dragon clan twice. We should be calling you our benefactor. Lu Chen said, Senior, you're exaggerating. The first time was a coincidence. The second time was because of your help that I was able to kill the King of Hell. Regardless of whether it was a coincidence or not, at least we've confirmed that you're a friend of our Netherworld Dragon clan. The old man said. Lu Chen looked at the people around him in surprise and asked, I remember that there should be more than 50 of you. Why are there only these people left? Don't tell me you're here to help me upgrade my dragon crystal. The old man smiled. Brother Du Quang, you're really too righteous. Don't worry, they've only used up too much blood essence. They'll be fine after a few years of rest. They'll be fine after a few years of rest. Why did the Netherworld Dragon make it sound like a few days of rest? Qianlong looked at Lu Chen. He had always been wary of Lu Chen. However, after the Aeon Shrine restored order, Lu Chen no longer interfered with the matters of the underworld. He even left the underworld god's horn in the underworld. It could be seen that he had no intention of invading the underworld. At this moment, the way he looked at Lu Chen was no longer filled with wariness like before. Solipsistic, you're obviously worried to death, but you didn't mention anything about the beast god. Qianlong suddenly said. Not only did you not forget your manners, it also shows that you're a person who can keep calm. Lu Chen looked at Qianlong. Since the other party took the initiative to ask, he naturally had to ask. May I ask, little beast, is he still alive? Lu Chen was so nervous that he couldn't speak coherently. Qianlong's lips curled up. You've saved our Netherworld Dragon clan twice, and we've also helped you twice. Now we're even. Look who's behind you. Lu Chen suddenly turned around and saw a youth standing at the door with red eyes. Dad! Little beast dodged and pounced on Lu Chen, pushing him down along with his chair. Chapter 1084. Ever since Lu Chen returned to the Yang world, he had never laughed so happily. There were tears in his laughter, but it was a joy that came from the bottom of his heart. Seeing the father and son reunited, Li Wei couldn't help but cry, that's great, the little beast is fine. However, Li Wei was definitely more rational than Lu Chen. She suddenly thought of a problem and asked Qianlong, excuse me, is the little beast still alive or, seeing the little beast in the underworld, they couldn't be sure if the little beast was still alive. Qianlong smiled. The dragon blood of us underworld dragons has the ability to eliminate the destruction of stardust. However, we had just helped the solipsistic upgrade the dragon species, so we exhausted ourselves and could only temporarily save the little beast. We only managed to revive it after a few days of rest. Hearing Qianlong's words, Li Wei finally relaxed. Lu Chen finally recovered from the joy of the little beast's revival. He stood up and bowed deeply to the underworld dragons, I can't thank you enough. If there's anything you need me for in the future, feel free to look for me. Qianlong smiled, solipsistic, we've already said that we helped you twice, and you saved us twice. We're even now, no one owes anyone anything. If we look for you in the future, it's not to ask you to return the favor, but to ask for your help at most. Lu Chen smiled. The underworld dragon's temperament was somewhat similar to his. Dad, did little Furball and the others miss me? The little beast asked happily, I want to quickly go back and see them. Lu Chen nodded, there's one more thing that's been resolved. I'll bring you back to see them. Lu Chen looked at Qianlong and the old man, the army of the dead is quickly being defeated, but there's still one more thing that's not resolved. It'll be a hidden danger. You're talking about the gates of the underworld? Xian Long asked. Lu Chen nodded. The underworld and the yang world shouldn't be connected. If a large number of gates of the underworld are opened, it'll definitely bring a lot of hidden dangers. I don't know how to close these gates of the underworld. Xian Long immediately said, if we allow the underworld gate to open, it will affect the order of the underworld. You don't have to worry if it's not enough. These entrances didn't originally exist. They're like wounds on your body. They'll heal on their own after a few days. You only need to have the people of the yang world seal the entrances. In 3 to 5 years, those entrances will disappear. Lu Chen nodded. So that's how it is. I'll get the people from Celestial Fortress to inform them. Now that the matters of the underworld were finally settled, Lu Chen could leave the underworld with peace of mind. After Lu Chen returned, he told Ma Bei about the gate of the underworld. It just so happened that when they attended the General Assembly, he would let Celestial Fortress announce it. A few days later, the continents began to push out the entrances to the underworld and seal the exits from the yang world. At this moment, there were only sporadic battles left on the main battlefield. Without a doubt, the Netherworld realm could no longer cause any waves. Little Critter returned to the team. Lu Chen's house was almost torn down by Little Critter and the others. Lu Chen also had a headache. These 3 guys fought every day. He couldn't calm down for even a moment. Since a lot of people thought that Little Critter was a human, Lu Chen simply beat them at their own game. He let Little Critter join the Demonic Academy and live with the students. A sea of clouds led some of the students and began to fill up the secret passage on the Cliff of Reflection. With Lu Chen overseeing the academy, the Demonic Academy didn't need the help of other academies to defend it. Ma Bei participated in the celebration banquet organized by Celestial Fortress. However, he followed Lu Chen's words and credited the dead students. He didn't mention Lu Chen's name. He had no choice. He was also afraid of offending Lu Chen. 2 months later, except for the heavily guarded entrance to the Netherworld realm, the Yang world began to slowly restore its former order. All the major academies had different degrees of sacrifice in this war. During the recruitment of new students, the major academies launched a fierce competition again. Especially the academies that participated in the main battlefield. Some academies even lost more than 2/3 of their members. In view of this, Zhongxian Gu stipulated that within a year, the academies that participated in the main battlefield would have priority in recruitment. The other academies behind would temporarily suspend the right to take the initiative to participate in the recruitment. Originally, Zhongxian Gu wanted to give the Demonic Academy special privileges. However, in this major issue, Lu Chen gave up the privilege. The Demonic Academy sacrificed more than 300 students to open the portal. The opening of the main spiritual vein had to be delayed. Although Lu Chen gave up the right to recruit new students, the Demonic Academy's reputation had spread in Xingzhe mainland. Even if the Demonic Academy didn't send people to recruit new students, there were still many new students who went to the Demonic Academy for an interview. This was something that Lu Chen didn't expect. Lu Chen naturally had no reason to refuse people who took the initiative to come to him. He specially set up a recruitment site in the academy for the new students to undergo the test space here. In this way, without any publicity, the Demonic Academy could maintain the speed of a few new students every day and develop slowly. At the same time, the Demonic Academy established exchanges with more outer courts. A large number of students went to the outer courts to study. After experiencing this war, the enthusiasm of the Demonic Academy's students for cultivation was unprecedentedly high. Those self-righteous students were now more motivated than the other. Yi Fan, Chu Tian, Xiao Zhan, Wu Xian, Skyfall, and other super-strong new students often cultivated for half a month. The new students were also affected and mistakenly thought that they had entered a very competitive academy. Senior sister, are you cultivating so hard to compete for the demonic god list? A new student looked at his senior brothers and sisters who were cultivating seriously in the martial arts field and was confused. The rewards for the demonic god list were the lowest in the Xingzi mainland. Everyone was a genius. Who didn't have some stock? Why would they care about this little bit of resources? The senior sister shook her head. The demonic god list? That's something that only the outer court exchange students care about. The inner court students only go there to verify their combat ability. Ah. Then I see that these senior brothers and sisters don't care about what's going on outside. They are all cultivating with all their might. Don't they need to rest? Rest? The senior sister looked at the new student in surprise. Do you know the dean's strength? I've heard about it. It said that he's very strong, very strong. Let me tell you this. Our dean is actually a new student, but I'm not exaggerating at all. His current combat ability has reached the peak of the 6th heavenly layer. What? Peak of the 6th heavenly layer? That's impossible. I know that the demonic academy is very strong, but isn't it a bit exaggerated to say that his combat ability is at the peak of the 6th heavenly layer? The senior sister snorted. If the dean didn't say not to mention the underworld, she would have slapped his face on the spot. Forget it. The dean's order was to let the 6th heavenly layer remember the heroes who died in battle and not just him. She wouldn't break the rules. In short, cultivate well. There are many people with better aptitudes than you. The more they are, the more hardworking you will be in cultivation. Because the strongest dean is in front of us. We can't lose face for him. The new student was a bit confused, but seeing was believing. His test score of 7 points was not enough to rank in the top 100 of the demonic academy. Since his senior brothers and sisters were working so hard, he had to work harder. Chapter 1085. Lu Chen had been very lonely recently. The students were all cultivating, and the instructors had added one class after another. The group of old men were almost exhausted to death. There were people cultivating in the martial arts practice field every day, or sparring in the arena. Even the previously sloppy Xiao Zhan seemed to have changed into a different person recently. He spent every day in the library. He wanted to find someone to accompany him to the foot of the mountain to buy a few sets of clothes for little beast, but there was no one. Chu Tian, accompany me down the mountain. Lu Chen saw Chu Tian passing by and hurriedly greeted him. Dean. That, you should find someone else. I have an appointment with Wuxia at the arena. I'm not free. Chu Tian walked away heartlessly. Skyfall. Skyfall, let's go down the mountain. Dean, I asked someone to help me occupy the meditation pavilion. If you don't go, there won't be any. You can go by yourself. Skyfall disappeared in a flash. Lu Chen was really speechless. He was a dignified dean, and he couldn't even find someone. Was there no one in the academy who knew how to flatter? What was the point of cultivating so hard? Our academy didn't need so many top students. Damn it! Lu Chen shook his head helplessly, and returned to his room in boredom. After Lu Chen left, Skyfall and Chu Tian stood at a distance and sighed in relief. That old pervert wants to drag down our cultivation again. He's too sinister. Exactly. He thinks that everyone is like him, reaching the peak of the 6th celestial layer in a few months. We must guard against him. Let's go. If the dean sees us, we'll be in trouble. In front of the mountain gate, after Zhongxian Ji's people landed, they realized that no one from the demonic academy welcomed them. If it was another academy, the dean would definitely be scolded. However, when they looked up at the plaque in front of the mountain gate, they could only shake their heads and go up the mountain themselves. The demonic academy. In this place, no one dared to behave atrociously. Mabe Immortal King, do you think Nameless will agree to participate in the prodigy competition? Huang Xian Sengoku was still a little nervous. I think so. After all, we had an agreement. He's not a person who goes back on his word, Mabe said. Soon, the two of them arrived at the Demonic Academy. To be honest, if this was my first time here, I might have thought that this was Immortal Academy. Huang Xian looked at those Fiend God Academy disciples. It's not just Immortal Academy. The lowest standard here has already been raised from 6 minutes in the testing space to 7 minutes. In other words, the lowest standard here is already higher than many Immortal Academy disciples. Mabe understood the Demonic Academy quite well. With a little more time, the Demonic Academy will become a top academy in the 6th heaven. As they spoke, the two of them arrived at Lu Chen's residence. There was not a single guard in front of Lu Chen's residence. The two of them knocked on the door directly. Come in. A nameless voice came from inside. The two of them pushed the door open and entered. Mabe. Huang Xian. Lu Chen looked at the two visitors strangely. Why are the two of you here? Ha ha ha, Nameless brother, we have an important matter to ask you to come out of seclusion. Mabe took out a pot of good tea the moment he arrived. It was Sengoku Pavilion's Immortal Wind Jade Leaf. Lu Chen invited the two of them to sit down and let Xiaomin brew the tea. Do you still remember the prodigy tournament that I mentioned before? Mabe asked with a smile. There are still 3 months before the prodigy tournament begins. We would like to invite you to represent Prosperous Origin Continent. Lu Chen frowned slightly. This was not the first time he had heard of the prodigy tournament. Previously, Heavenly Music Pavilion also wanted him to participate. It was just that his strength back then was not as strong as it was now. It's not suitable for me to participate in this kind of tournament, Lu Chen said. When Mabe heard that the other party did not directly reject him, he felt that there was a chance. He hurriedly explained, it's like this. The prodigy tournament does not take into account one's cultivation level, current battle strength, or identity. As long as one has been in the 6th heaven for 2 years, they can participate. Each continent will choose a contestant with the most potential to represent their own continent in the tournament. Finally, according to the ranking, the continent will be rewarded and the individual will be rewarded. Of course, the most important thing is the increase in reputation. Lu Chen was still a little interested in such a large-scale tournament. It just so happened that he had been bored recently. Lu Chen asked curiously, if the tournament does not take into account these things, what do we watch? Don't tell me it's a lantern festival or riddles or something. I'm not good at that. Mabe smiled and said, of course not. It's just that if you want to win in the prodigy tournament, you must be both intelligent and courageous, and have quick reflexes. Oh, and most importantly, your luck must not be too bad. Lu Chen was a little troubled. Just by listening to Mabe's words, he felt that he was not suitable for the prodigy tournament. Luck did not seem to be outstanding for him. However, Lu Chen still asked, Mabe, can you tell me the rules of the prodigy tournament in detail? Mabe nodded coquettishly. After the prodigy tournament begins, all contestants' attributes will be locked at the same value, so their skills, battle souls, even battle pets, equipment, and backpacks will all be sealed. All sealed? Yes, all sealed. That is to say, no matter how strong you are before, in the prodigy tournament, your attributes and abilities will be no different from others at the beginning. And then? Lu Chen asked. Then, you will enter a brand new continent. The continent will not be too big, but it will not be small either. If you are not strong enough, it will not be easy to meet an opponent there. In this continent, there are all kinds of equipment, clothes, skills, battle pets that can be directly controlled, puppets, and even attribute pills, resistance pills, and elemental pills. These items are of different levels, and the contestants will randomly find these equipment to equip themselves. They will rely on these equipment and skills to eliminate other contestants. After eliminating other contestants, you can obtain all the items on them. Of course, the total number cannot exceed the limit of your temporary backpack. Those who enter the top 10 will be rewarded. Lu Chen frowned slightly. The rules of this prodigy tournament seemed to be somewhat similar to a game that he had played before. No wonder it was said that it had nothing to do with the contestants' current strength. Everyone's attributes were the same at the beginning. Back then, the Heavenly Music Pavilion had taken a fancy to him. At that time, he was not strong enough. It seemed that it was also because of the rules of the prodigy tournament. If the rules of the tournament were like this, if the contestants picked up some super powerful skill as soon as he arrived on that continent, he could be eliminated directly. That sounds interesting. Lu Chen murmured. Are there any restrictions on the battle? At the beginning of the prodigy tournament, the initial attributes that are locked are very low, far lower than everyone's true attributes. When the opponent's attack overflows, their own attributes will be automatically unlocked. Basically, no one will die. Lu Chen frowned and said, I can participate in the tournament. But to be honest, I can't guarantee that I will get a good ranking. My luck is sometimes good and sometimes bad. Of course, no one can guarantee that they will get a good result in the prodigy tournament, but we believe in your judgment, combat experience, and adaptability. Also, the prodigy tournament will be transmitted through the shadow stones of the major academies. At that time, your badge will be written Zhongxian Gu Demonic Academy. This is also an opportunity to increase the popularity of the Demonic Academy. Lu Chen thought about it and said, okay, I'll participate. Chapter 1086. It seemed that there was nothing much to prepare for the prodigy competition. Lu Chen wandered around the school all day, and the students were afraid of such a leisurely principal. They would hide far away when they saw him, afraid that they would be dragged down the mountain to go shopping with him. Not even giving me a chance to worry about the student studies. Lu Chen sighed and went down the mountain alone. As the prodigy competition approached, the school began to discuss this matter. Unknowingly, the news of Lu Chen representing Xingyuan continent in the prodigy competition had spread. It was the first time for most people to participate in the prodigy competition, so they couldn't help but discuss this most eye-catching competition in the entire sixth heaven. It said that the prodigy competition's rewards are especially rich. I wonder if the principal can win the championship. Win the championship? Although the principal is very strong, you've seen the rules of the prodigy competition. Under such rules, it's equivalent to the original strength being useless. Everyone is back to the same starting line. Although the rules are disadvantageous to the principal, the fact that he was chosen shows that the Zhongxian Gu thinks highly of him. Even if his original skills and battle soul equipment are sealed, the principal's combat experience and reaction speed are all top-notch. You're right, but do you know why it's called the prodigy competition? Prodigies must have great luck. Think about it. Tens of thousands of people randomly appearing in a new continent to obtain items. The randomness is too great. I think so too. It can only be said that in the prodigy competition that gathers the most outstanding combat prodigies from all the continents, those who can obtain a ranking are definitely experts. However, experts may not be able to obtain a ranking. The Black Armor King smelled a business opportunity and had already set up a gambling house in the school. Even Yi Fan, who had earned 70 to 80,000 spirit stones by helping his fellow disciples clean, deliver meals, accompany them in training, and keep secrets, could not help but bet that the principal would not be able to enter the top 10. Yi Fan, are you sure that the principal won't be able to enter the top 10? Yi Fan narrowed his eyes and nodded firmly. The main thing is that this is more stable. There were tens of thousands of people, and only 10 people would be able to enter the top 10. In such a random competition, coupled with the principal's ordinary luck, it was very likely that he would be turned into a box. Therefore, by betting on this item, there was a high chance that he would be able to make a small profit. Chu Tian followed closely behind and bet 200,000. I also think that he won't be able to enter the top 10. This isn't just a competition of battle strength. Think about how unlucky the Dean was when he first came to the 6th heaven. He lost his family, his arm was broken, his body was weak, and I heard from the little beast that he almost died. With his luck, I think he will be eliminated very soon. Everyone nodded. That makes sense. Xiao Zhan pondered for a moment. The Dean was indeed strong, but that was another matter altogether. Should he seriously analyze the situation? Forget it, Chu Tian was more astute. He felt that he should be able to earn money by following him. After saying that, he took out an 8 million spirit stones card and placed it in front of the Black Armor King. Senior brother, you won't be able to enter the top 10. At this moment, a hand grabbed a handful of spirit stones and fiercely placed it on the first bet position. I'll bet on this, 1,000 spirit stones. Everyone looked over and saw that it was the little beast. Little beast, the Dean only gives you 500 spirit stones a month as pocket money. If you make a mistake, you will be eating dust for the next few months. Xiao Zhan reminded. The little beast said indifferently, I'm running out of money, so I'll borrow from you. In these few months, the little beast had become familiar with them. Yi Fan rubbed his chin and asked very seriously, Little beast, tell me honestly, do you know some inside information? If you have money, it's not good enough if you don't help us earn it. The little beast shook its head. What inside information? Aren't all the skills sealed? I just think that this has the highest odds. Yi Fan took a deep breath. This guy's way of thinking was indeed different from normal people. He still couldn't trust him. A few days before the prodigy competition, Zhongxiangu sent people over again. This time, they were here to pick up Lu Chen. Zhongxiangu prepared a new badge for Lu Chen. This badge didn't show his cultivation level, only the words, Zhongxiangu Demonic Academy. When others saw it, they would know that this contestant was from Zhongxianji's Demonic Academy. Nameless, 2 days later, you will be going to the Zijin continent, which is the continent for this competition. We can't enter. When the time comes, there will be people from the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace to receive you. When the time comes, you just have to do as they say. Ma Bei reminded. Lu Chen nodded. Oh, remember one thing. In case they don't seal all your abilities, for example, your dragon god form. However, you must not use it during the competition. Once you use any abilities other than the items you have obtained, you will be immediately disqualified. The entire competition will be broadcasted by the Illusion Realm map and Shadow Stone. You must remember. Lu Chen felt that Ma Bei was even more nervous than him, constantly reminding him about this and that. Got it, Ma Bei. Lu Chen smiled. Before you leave, the pavilion master will personally host a banquet to send you off. Remember to come to Cloud Immortal Mountain tomorrow night. Lu Chen smiled and shook his head. Ma Bei, you're too nervous. You've already told me so many times on the way here. Speaking of which, is this competition so important to Zhongxiangu? Of course it's important. Ma Bei said, the reward for this competition is very attractive. What reward? Lu Chen asked. Ma Bei looked at Lu Chen. He had a feeling that this guy wasn't too serious. It seemed like there was a need to provoke him a little. In the 7th Heaven Tong Tian Tower, there are no heaven domain bosses. Did you know that? Ah. Lu Chen was stunned. He really didn't know about this. Then how do we enter the 7th heaven? Ma Bei said, what I said might not be accurate. It's not that there aren't any bosses. It's just that the boss of the 6th floor of Tong Tian Tower is Heaven's Tribulation. In other words, you need to break through the peak of Human King Realm. To go to the 7th heaven, you don't have to pass the tribulation successfully, but you have to at least survive it. In the 7th heaven, even if you're not a true immortal, you have to at least be an itinerant immortal. Lu Chen's eyes widened. No wonder he had never heard of the sixth heaven domain boss. Ma Bei continued, you might think that we Zhongxian Gu are deceiving ourselves too much. We like to call ourselves immortal, Sengoku, or immortal supremacy. But in fact, this is our Zhongxian Ji's culture. We hope that someone can really pass the tribulation and become an immortal. And in a competition like the Prodigy competition, the reward is usually a tribulation pill. Tribulation pill? Lu Chen asked curiously. Yes, tribulation pill. It can protect you from death. Even if you fail, you can at least become a rogue immortal. Lu Chen's eyes widened. This kind of reward was indeed very tempting. A tribulation pill was equivalent to at least becoming a rogue immortal. No wonder even the headquarters of Zhongxian Gu cared so much about it. Nameless. In the past Prodigy competition, only the top 3 would get the tribulation pill. But this time, as long as you enter the top 10, you will get it. This kind of opportunity is hard to come by. If you can enter the top 10 and get a tribulation pill for Zhongxian Gu, we will give your demonic academy a lot of resources. You will definitely be satisfied. Lu Chen frowned slightly. He didn't need the tribulation pill at the moment. In comparison, the academy's resources were more important. Got it. Lu Chen said in a deep voice. Chapter 1087. The next night, Lu Chen headed to the Cloud Celestial Mountain. Although the Zhongxian Gu Celestial Lord had made things difficult for Lu Chen before, Lu Chen still attended the farewell banquet on account of his heroic performance during the Netherworld invasion. However, he wasn't familiar with these Sengoku immortal envoys, and he didn't have much to talk about with Celestial Lord Shenliang. He drank a few cups of wine and exchanged some pleasantries before returning to his room to rest. Once he woke up, Lu Chen followed Ma Bei to the teleportation array and headed to the purple gold mainland. A familiar feeling of dizziness came over him, and Lu Chen found himself in a public square. There were people everywhere, at least tens of thousands of people. A woman in purple walked over. This woman was human, and her features were picturesque. Her long hair flowed elegantly, and her eyes were lively. Even though many of the guides in the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace were extremely attractive, this woman was still the most eye-catching one. Many people around her secretly looked over. She was actually a great beauty. The woman seemed to take another look at Lu Chen before her gaze landed on his badge. You're from the Zhongxian Gu, right? I'm from the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace. Follow me. Lu Chen followed her obediently. Beauty, you're from the human race? Fellow countrymen. No. The woman replied unhappily. Just follow me. Were all the people from the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace so fierce? Lu Chen didn't ask any more questions. There was an empty area in front of them, and Lu Chen saw many people entering under the guidance of the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace's staff. It seemed to be some array that sealed their abilities. Nameless. The woman lowered her head and checked the information on the registration form. 1-star Emperor Xiu. The woman looked up at Lu Chen in surprise. Lu Chen nodded, indicating that the information was correct. The woman sneered unabashedly. Well, although the Prodigy competition doesn't look at the level, Zhongxian Gu is the first to send 1-star Emperor Xiu here. It seems that they don't want any ranking. Lu Chen didn't say anything. He had encountered this kind of thing too many times. Alright, let me explain the rules to you. At the start, your 4-dimensional attributes will be reduced to 100 points. Large amounts of immortal pills will be sold all over the Golden Continent. However, these immortal pills are all fake. The principle is to remove the seal according to the amount of immortal pills. So, don't expect to really increase your attributes by eating immortal pills. Lu Chen nodded. Got it. I don't think that's possible. The woman couldn't help but laugh, but she quickly put on a straight face. Don't change the topic. The skills that we've collected are temporary skills. We've made some adjustments to the spiritual energy flow in the purple gold continent. The skills here are released according to the spiritual energy flow that we've planned. They can only be used in the purple gold continent. We will also collect your equipment and battle pets. Oh. Lu Chen didn't have any objections. Also, if the sealing heaven formation doesn't completely seal some of your abilities, you can't use them in the competition. Once discovered, you'll be disqualified. Lu Chen suddenly asked, then, can I use spirit energy refinement? No. Don't worry. We'll seal spirit energy refinement as well. You're not the only one who can use spirit energy refinement. The woman said coldly, everyone here is a combat genius. There are many who can use spirit energy refinement. We can't not take this into consideration. In short, use the skills that you've obtained. We won't let you analyze the spiritual energy flow pattern. Lu Chen nodded thoughtfully. It seemed like the rules of the prodigy competition were quite strict. Also, the results of the competition are calculated based on how long you last. In other words, even if you don't get eliminated, as long as you can last until the end, you'll still have a result. Vice versa. No matter how many people you eliminate, if you can't last until the end, you won't have a ranking. Understood. Lu Chen said straightforwardly. Alright, you're preparing to enter the sealing heaven formation. You didn't bring your battle pet, right? You're not allowed to bring battle pets here. Lu Chen did leave Little Green and the others at the academy. However, he also brought a battle pet. Rhubarb, who was a 5-star battle pet. No, to be precise, in a place like the 6th heaven, Rhubarb couldn't even be considered a 5-star battle pet. It was just an ordinary Chinese rural dog. Even though he already had the ability to kill the king of hell, Lu Chen still wanted to try when he could take advantage of a loophole. Can I bring a pet dog? Pet dog? No pets are allowed. Participants can only wear a non-elemental clothing to enter the battlefield. If you're a beast tamer, then use the battle pet that you picked up from the purple gold continent to fight. Lu Chen shook his head. He failed to find the bug. If he had let Rhubarb in, the competition would probably have ended. Forget it. This was such an important competition and had been held for who knows how many years. That Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace shouldn't have such a big loophole. Put your weapons and equipment into your backpack. Only the clothing will enter the sealing heaven formation. At that time, the attributes of the clothing will also be sealed. Go in when you're ready. Okay. After Lu Chen finished speaking, he walked into the sealing heaven formation. The system reminded him again and again. Lu Chen watched helplessly as all his skills couldn't be used. Ordinary people would come out after a few minutes in the sealing heaven formation. However, Lu Chen's sealing ability alone took more than 20 minutes. After nearly half an hour, Lu Chen walked out slowly. Now, all his attributes had become 100 points. All his skills couldn't be used. It was really the same feeling as when he first entered Zhoutian. That woman glanced at Lu Chen. When you're ready, go to the preparation area. The prodigy competition will start in 2 hours. At that time, you can directly enter the teleportation gate and be teleported to a random location. As for whether there are any competitors around and whether there are any good items, it will depend on your luck. Lu Chen curled his lips. Got it. Thank you, beautiful lady. The woman pursed her lips as if she was holding back her laughter. Her clear eyes swept across Lu Chen's face. With a shake of her head, her long hair brushed past Lu Chen's nose, leaving behind a fragrance. She raised her head and walked away. Nameless, don't be eliminated from the start. The woman left behind such a sentence, which made Lu Chen a little confused. The staff members are quite concerned about the participants. Lu Chen scratched his head and walked towards the preparation area. As for the purple-clothed girl, after receiving Lu Chen, she left the square and entered a teleportation gate. Not long later, the girl appeared on a Sky Palace platform. Outside the teleportation gate, a middle-aged man smiled at her. Xin, have you seen him? The girl quickly ran 2 steps and came in front of the man. Father, I've seen him. How do you feel? Silly, like a piece of wood. The girl snickered. The man's eyes were filled with love. He's silly. He is the person who killed the king of hell. Didn't you make a fuss about wanting to see this solipsistic? Really, how can a girl be so thick-skinned? Father. Xin, pouted. What thick-skinned, I just want to see who is so strong. The man smiled dotingly. I've raised you for so long and I've never heard you praise me like this. Alright, didn't you say he's strong? Do you think he can get a ranking? Father, I'm not Martial Uncle, how can I predict? Oh right, did Martial Uncle predict his ranking? There was an array set up around the purple gold mainland, making the outside world unable to predict the result. However, as a heaven master of the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace, he could naturally predict it. Speaking of this, the man finally stopped smiling. Not only is your martial uncle unable to predict his ranking, he can't even predict his fate. What? There's something that martial uncle can't predict? Fine, then let me see what's so special about this nameless. Chapter 1088. More and more people entered the preparation area. Experts from various continents and various academies were waiting for the prodigy competition to begin. Lu Chen noticed that there was already a shadow stone floating above his head. It should have started broadcasting from the preparation area. However, those who could come here were all the top geniuses of various continents. Who hadn't seen such a big scene before? They were all doing what they should do and didn't pay attention to the shadow stone. Lu Chen was the same. He was just wandering around the preparation area out of boredom. Not long after, he saw a commotion not far away. It seemed that someone had a conflict over there. It seemed that 2 people were about to fight for some reason, but the people from the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace pulled them away in time and gave them a warning. If you want to fight, go inside and fight when the prodigy competition starts. Whoever causes trouble in the preparation area will be disqualified and punished by the headquarters. The people from the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace said fiercely. There was nothing to watch, but among the crowd of onlookers, Lu Chen suddenly saw a person's badge. Immortal Pavilion Thunder Academy. Lu Chen's mind suddenly felt as if it had been struck by lightning. Wasn't this the other academy that the mountain people had recommended to him? He still had the Thunder Academy's high recommendation token in his backpack. The main spirit vein of the Wuxia Academy had a strange movement. This was the reason why Lu Chen had snatched the old site of the Wuxia Academy. He deduced that it was because of this that the mountain people had recommended him to the Wuxia Academy. Since the Wuxia Academy was like this, then the Thunder Academy might be the same. Even if he didn't join the Thunder Academy, Lu Chen still had to check it out. Just as he was about to ask that person, because the conflict had been resolved, the crowd dispersed and that person ran off to who knows where. Lu Chen searched around for a long time, but he didn't see that person again. Damn it, there are too many people. Lu Chen looked at the people coming and going, but the target had already disappeared. However, this chance encounter wasn't completely fruitless. At least he knew that the Thunder Academy still existed, and its headquarters was called the Immortal Pavilion. Other than the discovery of the Thunder Academy, Lu Chen also saw a few familiar representatives. Violet Heavenly Palace, Heavenly Music Pavilion. They all have people here. It can't be, the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace also has people participating in the competition. After waiting in the preparation area for almost 2 hours, the prodigy competition was finally about to begin. The people of the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace used the Great Bell Talisman to broadcast the news. Please teleport to the 1000 portals in the preparation area. The match begins. Within the 6th layer of heaven, almost all of the students were watching the prodigy tournament from the countless martial arts fields of the countless academies. Other than learning from the reactions of these top-notch experts on the spot, this continent had its own representatives. This was related to the honor of the headquarters, and at the same time, the honor of the continent. Of course, there were quite a few academies that opened gambling houses. As soon as he announced the start of the match, the people around Lu Chen all rushed madly into the various teleportation gates. Lu Chen also followed the crowd and rushed into the nearest teleportation gate. It's about to start, it's about to start. Xiao Zhan rushed to his seat with a large plate of fruits and seeds. All the instructors, senior brothers, and junior brothers were also staring at the screen. Inside Zhongxian Gu, Mabe and the others also became abnormally nervous. The key is to get through the early and middle stages. If we can make it to the later stages, nameless competitiveness will rise. Yes, especially in the early stages. In the past, many people were eliminated at the beginning of the competition. Let's hurry and find some skills and equipment to use first. On the Celestial Fortress side, the screen of the Tianya Pavilion was divided into 2 parts. One part was the representative of the Celestial Fortress, and the other part was Lu Chen. They knew Lu Chen's strength, so naturally, they would pay attention to him. As for Xin who was far away, the independent screen in front of her was also divided into 2 parts. One part was locked onto the contestants from the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace, and the other part was also Lu Chen. The entire 6th layer of heaven was paying attention to this battle between top-notch experts. Lu Chen was quickly teleported away. As soon as he landed, Lu Chen found a large abandoned ancient temple in front of him. However, what surprised Lu Chen was that there were at least a few dozen people around him who were also teleported there. There were 20 to 30 people who could see each other. Now, everyone's attributes were pitifully low, and they did not have any skills or equipment. No one had the ability to fight against a few dozen people. In such a situation, falling into a crowd was obviously the most terrifying situation. Everyone probably had the same thought. He was now in a very dangerous situation. Everyone was frozen in place. It's over. This guy actually landed in the ancient temple. Mabe suddenly became nervous. Many people often appear in this place. It's the place where the early stage eliminations are the fastest. Lu Chen's mind raced. There might be items in the ancient temple, but there were too many people around. At this moment, he raised his head and saw a wooden chest on the roof of the ancient temple. That should be the wooden chest that contained the items. At the same time, Lu Chen was not the only one who discovered the wooden chest. The dozens of people who were teleported to the ancient temple all used all their strength and crazily rushed to the roof. Whoever was the first to obtain the treasure chest would have the absolute advantage. Lu Chen's position was very good, and he did not want to let go of this opportunity. However, just as he was about to move, he suddenly noticed a stone falling from the roof. There's someone on the roof. This was Lu Chen's first reaction. Although he did not see anyone, why would there be movement on the roof out of nowhere? This ancient temple was very tall and had 3 floors. If there was really someone on the roof, even if he could snatch the treasure chest from the surrounding opponents, he would definitely not be able to snatch it from the person on the roof. That guy was quite sinister. He did not expose himself at all. Based on my many years of experience, there must be someone on the roof. Lu Chen thought to himself. The item in the chest has most likely been taken by that guy. Damn, someone directly spawned next to the chest. What kind of luck is this? Lu Chen fiercely cursed. You want to trick me? Dream on. It's not good to stay here for long. Retreat first. Most people rushed to the roof, but Lu Chen slammed on the brakes and turned around to run. Lu Chen had not run far when someone on the roof snatched the treasure chest. Ha ha ha, it's a cultivation technique. All of you, die. Boom, boom, boom. The people who had snatched the treasure chest were already slaughtering. Everyone turned around and ran. Seeing this scene, Lu Chen almost vomited blood. There was no one on the roof at all. And there was a cultivation technique in the chest. No matter what level of cultivation technique it would be the best in the early stages. That person was already slaughtering everyone there. There was no one on the roof. The ancient temple had probably been in disrepair for a long time and stones had fallen. Damn! What a loss! Lu Chen cursed as he ran for his life. Fortunately, he ran early and successfully escaped from danger. In the demonic academy's martial arts field, all the disciples were suspicious when they saw the president's actions. Skyfall frowned and said, Does the president need to be so cowardly? His position is very good. If he went to snatch it, he would have a great chance. Why didn't he snatch it? There was no one on the roof at all. It was that stone that misled the president. Chu Tian sighed. In the royal heaven immortal palace, Xian could not help but laugh. Ha ha ha, this guy is too cautious. Why is he so silly? Xian's father narrowed his eyes slightly. Nameless, no wonder he could go so far. Xian, you said he was silly. He is more shrewd than anyone else. If it was me, I would make the same choice as him. Watch his competition properly. Perhaps it will benefit you for life. Xian instantly frowned. Nameless had clearly missed a good opportunity. How could it make her father give him such a high evaluation? A single mistake could benefit her for life. Wasn't her father making a mountain out of a molehill? Chapter 1089. Lu Chen had no idea what was going on outside. He had already run into the dense forest. Damn, that's too cruel. Lu Chen panted heavily. With his current attributes, it was a little tiring to run so far in one breath. Although Lu Chen survived, he didn't get anything now. It would be very dangerous if he met someone. I don't know if there will be a chest here. It's best to go outside and look. What kind of rubbish skills and equipment are you talking about? Just give me some. At least I can protect myself. Lu Chen wandered in the forest for a while, but he still felt unsafe. There was no one in the forest. Lu Chen walked along the forest for about an hour. Suddenly, he saw what seemed to be a farmhouse in the distance through the trees. He took a closer look. There was actually a wooden box on the wooden table outside the farmhouse. Seeing the wooden box, Lu Chen felt like he had been injected with chicken blood. He looked around carefully and found that there was no one else around. He quickly rushed to the wooden house, picked up the box, and quickly checked inside. After seeing that there were no other boxes, he ran back into the forest. Looking at the box in front of him, Lu Chen was very excited. I finally found a box. It's up to you whether I can make a comeback or not. Please, give me a skill. The disciples of the demonic academy were also praying at the same time. Don't give the director a skill, don't give the director a skill. Don't give him a skill. Tian looked at the scene of thousands of people praying behind him and frowned slightly. He said to a sea of clouds, Old sea, these little bastards probably bet that Nameless won't make it into the top 10. A sea of clouds nodded. Probably. If Nameless gets a skill, it will definitely be different. Lu Chen prayed alone. He didn't know that the thousands of people in the academy were also praying. After praying for a while, Lu Chen carefully opened the wooden box. Obtained item, Speed Talisman. Can be used once. Lu Chen almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What is this broken thing? There was such a thing in the box. It wasn't easy for me to snatch a box, and now it's a one-time use speed talisman. At the same time, the demonic academy burst into cheers. That's great. Our prayers worked. God has heard our prayers. Over at Zhongxian Ji's side, Mabe had just spat out a mouthful of tea. What kind of luck does this guy have? I'm afraid this is the worst treasure. If he could just casually get a skill, this guy would probably be able to fly. Even attribute pills would be better than this. Within the Royal Heaven Immortal Palace, Xian had a bitter expression. Speed Talisman. Nameless luck was too bad. It was not easy to find a chest, but he got the most useless item. Look at senior brother Ing, he already has 3 treasure chests, 2 cultivation techniques, and 1 equipment. Xian's father smiled. That guy's luck is really bad, especially in the early stages. However, I would like to see if this guy can make a comeback under such a start. At the Heavenly Music Parlor, they were also paying attention to Lu Chen's performance. After all, this guy was also a candidate that they had their eyes on back then. Speed Talisman. Qin Ying, the pavilion master of the Green Law Pavilion, smiled. The competition has already started for more than an hour, but Nameless only got a speed talisman. It seems like it's only a matter of time before he is eliminated. The High Mountain Pavilion Master said proudly, the person we found is much stronger than him. Now that I think about it, we should thank him for rejecting our divine body elixir. Otherwise, we would have suffered a loss. In a dense forest somewhere in the purple gold continent. Lu Chen put away the speed talisman with a hopeless expression. Although this item was bad, it was still useful. The prodigy competition was held in the purple gold continent. Since it was a continent, the area would definitely not be small. Lu Chen was not worried that he would be killed in the forest. He glanced at the prodigy competition system. 1 hour and 13 minutes after the start of the competition, 4,700 people had already been eliminated. There are still more than 60,000 people. It's so hard to get into the top 10. Lu Chen shook his head. Lu Chen was considered someone who had seen treasure chests before. He realized that treasure chests would usually appear in some conspicuous buildings. However, Lu Chen's combat power was almost zero now. Once he was discovered, he might be eliminated. No, I still have to go out. I have the speed talisman. With their attributes and skills, the speed talisman is still useful. Once someone has a movement skill, my speed talisman will be useless. Thinking of this, Lu Chen gritted his teeth and walked out of the dense forest. He walked in the direction of a small abandoned city on the map. This time, Lu Chen's luck finally took a turn for the better. There were obvious signs of fighting in this small city, but there was no one else here. Lu Chen hurriedly went into the houses and started searching. After searching a few houses, Lu Chen found a few open chests. They were all empty. It seemed like this place had already been searched. However, Lu Chen was still searching carefully. Finally, in a hidden closet, Lu Chen found a second wooden chest. This wooden chest was at least 3 times the size of the first chest Lu Chen found. This was a level 2 treasure chest. According to the description of the heavenly rubber stopper, there were at least 3 items in a level 2 treasure chest. Lu Chen was so excited that he almost cried. Level 2 treasure chest. My luck has finally changed. All of you, just you wait. Come, give me a skill. No matter how trashy it is. At the same time, thousands of people in the demonic academy were praying. Speed talisman, speed talisman, speed talisman. 3 speed talismans. Many people who were paying attention to Lu Chen were looking at Lu Chen nervously. After all, there were still some people who knew of Lu Chen's identity. If this guy had a useful skill, the situation would definitely be different. Level 2 treasure chest. TSK, this guy might be able to get a cultivation technique. Lu Chen trembled as he opened the chest. Obtained item, speed talisman, *3. Lu Chen fell to the ground with a dull expression. He was in a bad mood. The Demonic Academy's disciples cheered and celebrated this major victory. Ha ha ha, the Dean is indeed the Dean. He never disappoints us. Hee hee, senior brother Xian Jia, I bet 8 million. 8 million. Xiao Zhan grabbed Xian Jia and shook him. You're going to lose big this time. Lu Chen obediently put away the 3 speed talismans. The 4 speed talismans were already quite thick. With a long sigh, Lu Chen continued to search the room. Unfortunately, there seemed to be no other fish that had escaped the net. In the early stage, as long as there was an item, no matter if it was good or bad, others would take it away. With the 4 speed talismans in his pocket, he checked the map. According to the map, there was a road not far ahead that led to a small city. It was much bigger than the previous town. This road is the only way to the town. It's very suitable for an ambush. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes. I can't just go there directly. Thinking of this, Lu Chen quietly left the place and entered the dense forest on both sides of the road to hide. He waited for a few hours until the sky darkened. Lu Chen was still hiding in the forest. Lu Chen was able to keep his composure, but the Heavenly Music Pavilion was a little impatient. Their people were lying in ambush near the mainland. They were only 4,000 to 5,000 meters away from Lu Chen's hiding place. However, their people didn't expose their whereabouts at all. Lu Chen didn't appear even though he didn't see anything. This guy. Did he cheat? Does he know that our people are here? The High Mountain Pavilion Master said fiercely. Did he run away? Not long later, a figure suddenly appeared on the road. He quickly passed in front of Lu Chen. At this moment, on the other side, a sharp sword aura whizzed towards the figure. The two of them exchanged blows 1,000 meters in front of Lu Chen. Chapter 1090. Heavenly Music Club. Lu Chen squinted his eyes when he saw the badge on one of them. He was surprised to run into someone from the Heavenly Music Club here. Fortunately, he did not take the road recklessly. Otherwise, he would have been killed. When the two of them fought, they did not use advanced skills. But the Heavenly Music Club had 2 skills, one for offense and one for defense, which made them more skillful. Soon, the representative from the Immortal Tracking Sect was at a disadvantage. That guy knew he could not win, so he kept retreating. Seeing that the representative from the Immortal Tracking Sect was about to lose, Lu Chen was burning with impatience. If he had a skill, he would definitely be able to take advantage of the situation. However, before the outcome of the battle could be determined, 4 or 5 people came out at the same time. Those 4 or 5 people probably did not expect that there would be others like them who had waited until then. However, the Heavenly Music Club and the Immortal Tracking Sect were exhausted. This was the best time to kill and rob. Neither of them would give in. As a result, the intense battle between the two of them had turned into a chaotic battle. All kinds of low-level skills were dazzling to look at. After a battle of wits and courage, the representative from the Heavenly Music Club shouted, "I knew you wanted to take advantage of the situation. Unfortunately, you are all trash in front of me. Come out, flying ghost snake." All of a sudden, the representative from the Heavenly Music Club summoned his battle pet and charged into the crowd. While the battle pet was low level, it was still a beast. While the others had skills, their attributes were not high enough. They were no match for the flying ghost snake. Soon, the battle came to an end. The representative from the Heavenly Music Club defeated the other 5. Ha 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 ha, this is a good harvest. The disciple from the Heavenly Music Club was counting the spoils. Wow! They have a lot of things. Stamina pellets. Good stuff. Let's recover our stamina first. Lu Chen was hiding in the dark, gnashing his teeth. The representative had battle pets while he only had 4 speed talismans. They had started from the same starting line. How could there be such a huge difference between them? While the representative from the Heavenly Music Club had just gone through a fierce battle, he had found the stamina pellets and had a flying ghost snake with him. He was still strong. Lu Qin did not have the courage to go out and court death. After waiting for a while, that guy stood up. Haha, after stealing this batch, I guess my equipment is now the best. I can continue running towards the central area. The high-grade treasure chests should all be there. A few minutes after he left, less than a minute before these people would be teleported out, a wretched figure rushed to the mainland at an extremely fast speed and dragged back the corpses of the 5 people, in order to prevent the representative of the Heavenly Music Parlor from setting up another ambush. Lu Qin did not hesitate to use 2 speed talismans. In any case, he hated this thing to the core. After using it, out of sight, out of mind. The 5 of them hadn't truly died. They were just unable to move after being sealed. When they saw Lu Qin, their eyes widened and they began to chat. Brother, you were actually lying in ambush here. You didn't come out earlier, but you waited for us to finish fighting before coming out. How wretched are you? If you had come out earlier, the Heavenly Music Parlor bastard might not have won. Lu Qin said snappily, since you're already dead, stop talking nonsense. He rummaged through a few fixed backpacks. As there was a limit to each person's backpack, Lu Qin wanted to see if he could pick up something that was left behind. After looking through the unmanned backpacks, Lu Qin found 6 speed talismans. So, there's only one tool in the prodigy competition, and that is the speed talisman. Lu Qin almost broke down. Others fought with extravagant words, but in his world, there was only the speed talisman. After deliberately wasting 2 speed talismans, he actually had 8 speed talismans now. Brother, if there were any useful treasures, they would have taken them long ago. Why would they wait for you? The speed talisman is quite useful. It can be used for escaping and chasing. If it weren't for the fact that that guy couldn't let it go, he would have taken it long ago. Lu Qin looked at these people helplessly, not even having the energy to explain. If there were skills, equipment, attributes, and battle pets, he would also feel that the speed talisman was quite useful. But the problem was that he only had the speed talisman now. A total of 8. The number of speed talismans he had was more than the 5 of them combined. Not long after, the 5 of them had been teleported away. Only Lu Qin was left to sort out his speed talismans helplessly. Although he had lost at the start of the competition, Lu Qin didn't give up. Now that night had fallen, Lu Qin took advantage of the darkness to sneak into the town. He searched the houses one by one. There were 7 or 8 wooden boxes, most of which were second-level wooden boxes. Unfortunately, they had all been found by others, most likely by that guy from the Heavenly Music Parlor. He had already swept the place clean. Of course, Lu Qin didn't come out empty-handed. He found more than 10 speed talismans in the boxes. It seemed that the guy didn't want so many speed talismans, so he left them there. After searching, Lu Qin didn't dare to stay there. He returned to the wilderness and found a hidden haystack to rest. After a tiring day, Lu Qin didn't find a single attribute elixir. With his current attributes, his physical strength couldn't keep up. He had to rest. The first day of the competition was about to end. From the afternoon until now, more than 10 hours had passed. Lu Qin currently had 21 speed talismans. At the same time, when Lu Qin checked the data of the Heavenly Talents competition, he found that more than 10,000 people had been eliminated. That is to say, the resources are concentrated in the hands of the remaining people. They are getting stronger and stronger. Lu Qin frowned. And I don't have a single useful item now. It's over. I'm afraid I'll be in an even worse state tomorrow. As the saying went, one step ahead, one step ahead. These experts all had rich combat experience and knew how to expand their advantage. Just like the representative of the Heavenly Music Parlor. After getting a battle pet, he quickly began to ambush others and expand his advantage. That was to say, Lu Chen's upcoming matches would be even more difficult. Damn it. I'm at odds with the 6th level. Since I entered the 6th level, I've never had a good time. Forget it. No matter how unlucky I am, the competition has to go on. It's more important to have a good rest. Lu Chen cursed and fell asleep. At the same time, the demonic academy was watching the competition through the night. How can the dean sleep with his current equipment? How can he fall asleep? Yeah. People who get good equipment don't sleep, but he's sleeping. How big is his heart? 21 speed talismans and no other equipment. The dean is indeed a weirdo. On the Zhongxian Ji's side, the Sengoku were at their wits' end. Nameless can last until the next day at most. In the past, more people would be eliminated on the second day. The area in front of him has already been searched. He won't be able to get anything good. Sigh, we only saw his incredible strength, but neglected his bad luck. It seems that he won't be able to get a ranking this time. When Nameless comes back, don't complain too much. After all, it's not his fault that he's unlucky. Chapter 1091. Early the next morning, Lu Chen woke up early, washed his face and rinsed his mouth by the stream, and stretched his body. After a good night's sleep, I feel completely different. If I'm energetic, my luck won't be that bad. Lu Chen cheered himself on. There's a village up ahead. Let's go take a look. When he reached the village, Lu Chen realized that he had been too naive and it came to the relationship between one's mental state and luck. After finding 4 speed talismans in the village, Lu Chen's world fell into darkness once again. As he walked, he collected speed talismans. By the afternoon of the second day, Lu Chen already had a thick stack of speed talismans in his hands. It was as if he was possessed by the god of misfortune. However, to everyone's surprise, although Lu Chen did not find any equipment, his cautious style allowed him to avoid ambushes time and time again. He managed to survive until the next day. After sleeping in the forest, on the 3rd day, Lu Chen continued to collect speed talismans and went further and further on the road. Gradually, Lu Chen had forgotten that there were other items in the prodigy competition. In front of a deserted village, Lu Chen saw a box and ran over excitedly. Wow, it's a fucking box. There are actually 2 speed talismans. I'm rich. I'm rich. The demonic academy's disciples were no longer praying. They had already discovered that there was no need to pray. The dean could only find speed talismans. Seeing the dean excitedly collect the 2 speed talismans, Chu Tian shook his head inside. Has the dean gone crazy? After suffering countless setbacks, he seems to have fallen in love with the speed talismans. This should be the legendary morbid feeling. Yi Fan analyzed. When other people see the box, even if the items in the box are useless to them, they will destroy them. Only auxiliary items like the speed talismans are too lazy to destroy them. The dean's backpack is full of speed talismans. He can actually last until the 4th day. It's just that his attributes are too low, so he doesn't dare to rush too fast. As a result, he has been left far behind. At the end of the 3rd day, there were less than 20,000 contestants left, and Lu Chen had actually lasted until now. After all, other people with skills would always want to snatch others' skills. However, for Lu Chen, this was obviously unrealistic. He had never had a direct confrontation with anyone along the way. Coupled with his cautious nature, he managed to survive until the 4th day. However, in view of the fact that Lu Chen only had over 300 speed talismans, no one thought that he could get a ranking. In the Prodigy tournament, the closer one was to the center of the continent, the higher the grade of the treasure chests. If one wanted to obtain a ranking, they would definitely have to fight head-on. Thus, everyone naturally hoped to obtain a high-grade item. Everyone's attention gradually shifted to the center of the arena. Even Zhongxiangu had given up on paying attention to Lu Chen. After all, he was someone who only had a few hundred speed talismans. The gap between him and the others was getting bigger and bigger. Inside the demonic academy, the Black Armor King started to calculate how much money he had to pay. The only one who had not given up was probably Lu Chen himself. He opened the treasure chests again and again, collecting the speed talismans again and again. On the afternoon of the 5th day, Lu Chen stood in front of a small wooden house that had already been searched and opened the treasure chests in front of him. How many speed talismans are there this time? Lu Chen no longer had any hope. Obtained item, speed talisman *2. Obtained cultivation method, bone crushing fist. Lu Chen blinked. He thought that the system had made a mistake. There was actually a cultivation method here. A fist technique for grandmasters of combat. Is this really true? Lu Chen said in disbelief. Learn. Bone crushing fist, causes physical damage to the target of strength *10, and has a certain probability of causing bone crushing strike. Bone crushing strike, causes bone damage. Lu Chen's eyes widened. This skill's damage was not high, but this bone crushing strike was very strong. One had to know that in the prodigy competition, no matter how high one's attributes were calculated, one could not break through. There was no concept of cultivation level here. Without breaking through, one could not completely transform their physical body. Therefore, no matter how high their attributes were, they would still be affected by bone crushing strike. Even if the opponent was fully equipped, as long as bone crushing strike was used, they could be seriously affected immediately. There are actually people who don't want this skill. Lu Chen could not believe his eyes. Could it be that the opponent is not a martial artist and is not good at this skill? Or has he already equipped enough more powerful skills? Finally, Lu Chen finally noticed that this skill's biggest weakness was the probability of bone crushing strike, which was only 2.5%. In theory, out of 40 attacks, only one bone crushing strike could be used. No wonder, this triggering probability is really too low. If you don't use bone crushing strike, then the attack won't work. That's why people don't want this skill. Lu Chen muttered. Although the probability of bone crushing strike was extremely low, for Lu Chen, there was no more extravagant request. That's great, I finally have a skill. Lu Chen almost cried. After equipping the first skill, Lu Chen's confidence skyrocketed, and he headed towards the central region of the purple gold continent. Father, Solipsistic finally has a skill. Xin Air turned around and looked at her father. But, with only this one skill that others don't want, with no equipment and low attributes, I feel that his chances of making a comeback are still too small. The man frowned slightly. This guy is indeed a little unlucky. The gap between them was too big at the beginning, and now he only obtained a skill that isn't too strong. In the end, it's still a little too late. Does he have no hope of making a comeback? The middle-aged man looked at the person in the image, then looked at the luxurious equipment and skills of the Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace representative, and shook his head. Everyone will destroy the items that they can't take away. At most, they will leave some useless items for him. Currently, except for the final battle, almost all the treasure chests have been searched. If he wants to rely on bone crushing strike to make a comeback, I think it's already hopeless. Lu Chen didn't care whether others thought highly of him or not. After obtaining the first skill, he was instantly revived with full health. You don't want to play with me, right? Now I have a skill too. On the 6th day, on the 7th day, Lu Chen was still alive in the Prodigy tournament, and he was also heading towards the central region of the Purple Gold Continent for the final battle. Of course, he didn't give up on searching for treasure chests. He didn't find any other equipment, but there were more high-grade treasure chests, and the number of speed talismans increased rapidly. He had already accumulated more than 2,000 pieces. Others' backpacks were filled with equipment and skills, but his was filled with speed talismans. On the seventh night, there were only about 4,000 people left. At night, Lu Chen began to study the speed talisman. The speed talisman was a type of talisman that could increase one's movement speed for a certain period of time. Most people knew that the speed talisman had such an effect. However, Lu Chen had been carefully studying the description of the speed talisman. Increase body speed by 200% for 10 seconds. Under normal circumstances, the speed talisman is used on the legs and feet. It's equivalent to a pretty good technical displacement skill, but it still can't be compared to a flicker displacement skill. Lu Chen rubbed his chin. That's not right. This speed talisman is a bit different from the ones I've encountered before. The previous speed talisman said that it would increase one's movement speed by a certain amount, but this one said, increase body speed. Lu Chen's brows furrowed tighter and tighter. Then, if I put it on my arm, Lu Chen used the speed talisman on his arm and quickly threw out a bone-shattering fist. The speed of this punch was much faster than usual. Lu Chen suddenly widened his eyes. So, this is how it increases body speed. That is to say, if I have enough speed talismans, I can do a lot of things. Lu Chen's eyes gradually lit up. Chapter 1092. After watching the genius competition for several days, many people had already rested, but Xian had not. More than 300 representatives of the Baron Heaven Immortal Academy had been eliminated. Currently, he was dressed in luxurious equipment and was very conspicuous among the remaining powerhouses. Many people would choose to avoid him when they saw him from afar. The more they did so, the more powerful items he could get, further widening the gap. On the other side of the screen, the solipsistic had already fallen asleep in the woods after studying the speed talisman for a while. This guy slept on time every day and was left far behind. He did not encounter anyone, and even if he did, he could effectively avoid them. In short, he was a guy who was almost naked, but he had lasted until now. Perhaps it was her father's instructions that made Xian pay more attention to Lu Chen. What was he doing just now? What's the use of a bone-shattering fist and a bunch of speed talismans? Xian shook her head. However, although this guy has been left behind so far and can no longer compete with others, he searched carefully everywhere he went and did not let go of any treasure chest. I suddenly understand why he can stand at the peak of the level 6. He won't let go of any opportunity, any detail. Although Lu Chen's performance had been at the bottom, even if he had lasted until now, it was because he was too weak and had been left far behind, but Xian had a better understanding of him. The genius competition was too accidental. In terms of real strength, that guy was definitely in existence that could kill everyone. There was no doubt about that. The 8th day of the competition finally began. As more and more contestants gathered, the battle at this time had entered a white-hot stage. Lu Chen woke up early from the forest and went straight to the center of the purple-gold continent for the final battle. However, just as Lu Chen was halfway across a wooden bridge, a person walked out from each end of the bridge. Seeing this scene, everyone who paid attention to Lu Chen suddenly became nervous. After several days of hiding, Nameless finally met an enemy. Moreover, he was being sandwiched. Those two seemed to have formed a temporary alliance. Chu Tian said, "I've seen their battle before, and it's a method of encircling others." "No way, the Dean only has one bone-shattering fist." "The Dean is finally coming back," Old Wine said. "It's finally over. I've got 3 million. When the Dean comes back, don't tell anyone about the bet. Otherwise, we will die miserably." Xiao Zhan didn't forget to warn his fellow disciples. Lu Chen looked at the two people blocking his way. One was from the Flying Martial Saint Academy of the Drunken Immortal Pavilion, and the other was from the 100 Battles Academy of the Lying Immortal Pavilion. In short, he didn't know any of them. Demonic Academy? Why were people from the Academy allowed to participate in the prodigy competition? No wonder you've been left so far behind. The person from the flying martial sect coldly snorted, his eyes filled with disdain. Demon Lord, don't talk nonsense with this kind of trash. Hurry up and kill him. Let's see if he has any puppet technique. Another person shouted to his companion, I'm still lacking a good puppet technique, it's making me feel uncomfortable. Lu Chen looked at the person who spoke and asked indifferently, are you a puppet master? That's right, I'm a puppet master. The other party glared fiercely at Lu Chen. Lu Chen coldly snorted, I'm really annoyed with puppet masters. Speaking of which, Lu Chen's relationship with puppet masters was not shallow. The fifth celestial layer boss was a puppet master, and the king of hell also knew puppet techniques. In short, other than the oracle who liked to act mysterious, the most annoying thing for Lu Chen was puppet masters. Of course you're annoyed, because puppet masters are strong. That person sneered, you're about to die, yet you still dare to talk nonsense. You really don't know how to write the word death. Brat, I'd like to see if you want to break through the bridge or break through me. Lu Chen coldly snorted, what bridge? You two, come at me together. In front of the screen, the disciples of the Demonic Academy vomited blood. At this time, the dean still wanted to fight two people at once. Didn't he know that he only had one bone-breaking fist? Oh, there's also a speed talisman, but that thing was mostly used as an auxiliary tool. The other party could directly catch up with him. Arrogant. Demon Lord shouted in a low voice, Chong Bei, show him some color. These two people had the same surname. They seemed to be brothers, but they went to two different academies. The two of them rushed to Lu Chen at the same time. Puppet advance. The puppet master Chong Bei quickly released a red devil puppet. Its whole body emitted a creaking sound and rushed forward quickly. On the other side, Demon Lord held a crescent moon sword and rushed to Lu Chen. The number of eliminated people, 142. Seeing the two people coming from both sides, Lu Chen narrowed his eyes and took out 5 speed talismans in his left hand. Speed talisman. 2 speed talismans were used on his legs at the same time. Lu Chen's speed increased sharply. But he didn't dodge, instead, he rushed to Demon Lord. On one hand, he closed the distance between him and Demon Lord, on the other hand, he opened the distance between him and the devil puppet. Courting death. Demon Lord shouted angrily, crescent moon sword. Lu Chen stuck another speed talisman on his torso. His body moved sideways and he actually avoided the attack. The last 2 talismans were stuck on his arms. Bone-breaking fist. Boom 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 boom. Lu Chen's attack speed was extremely fast. With both fists, he attacked more than a dozen times in an instant. People could hardly believe their eyes. This, the bone-breaking fist, is so fast. Isn't this the worst skill in the Tianjiao competition? No, how did he use the speed talisman just now? He used the speed talisman on all parts of his body to increase his movement speed, attack speed, dodge speed, this. I also thought of using the speed talisman to accelerate the body parts to achieve different effects, but in actual combat, it's too difficult. You have to predict the opponent's skills and respond to the opponent's attack. Moreover, after operating separately, the amount of operation is increased by many times. It can't be used in actual combat. Wait, he separated his torso like this, it's somewhat similar to the puppet technique. Isn't the puppet technique controlling the various parts of the puppet to complete various actions? It's just that the puppet master controls the puppet, while he controls his own body. Obviously, this wasn't something that a puppet master could do. It also required a strong close combat ability. Yi Fan suddenly stood up, not good, have you forgotten? The dean, he seems to be an all-rounder. What kind of skill does he have that he can't use? Xiao Zhan's hand that was holding the fruit trembled a little. Damn, the dean can use a speed talisman like this. It's useless to pray. No way, he can win like this. Chu Tian's face was full of horror. Little Beast ate Xiao Zhan's fruit and said leisurely, actually, I didn't have the heart to tell you before. Ah. Tell us what? A group of people hurriedly looked at Little Beast. Little Beast leisurely swallowed the fruit and continued, from the moment Dad got the bone-breaking fist, the competition was already over. Chapter 1093. You are courting death. Demon Lord turned around and slashed his sword. However, this person's attack speed was not as fast as Lu Chen's. Lu Chen had a few more speed talismans in his hand. In a blink of an eye, he was behind Demon Lord. You don't want to break my bones? Then, let's do it again. Lu Chen shouted and avoided his opponent's attack. He launched a second wave of attack. His fists were like raindrops falling on Demon Lord's body. A close uppercut hit Demon Lord's ribs. With a cracking sound, Demon Lord's ribs were broken. Demon Lord suddenly felt a sharp pain. Damn, what kind of martial art is this? Why is there such a strong martial art? Lu Chen coldly snorted, how can you understand the strength of my martial art? After that, he punched again and broke Demon Lord's right ribs. This time, Demon Lord has completely lost his fighting power. Lu Chen's legs were covered with speed talismans. He avoided the demon puppets and rushed toward Demon Lord Chongbei. Demon Lord Chongbei's combat experience was quite rich. He quickly controlled the puppet to intercept. Lu Chen's body was covered with speed talismans. He avoided the puppet's sweep and rushed straight to the puppet master behind the puppet master. Damn, this guy's whole body is so flexible. Speed talismans can be used like this. Demon Lord hurriedly used his movement skill. Jiang Qinyan Fly. Demon Lord Chongbei's movement skill was relatively advanced. There were 3 flickering movements. However, after 3 movements, Demon Lord Chongbei was embarrassed. Although Jiang Qinyan Fly can quickly pull away from Lu Chen, the skill has a cooldown. But, Lu Chen's speed talismans can be used all the time without consuming spiritual power. Not long after, Lu Chen approached Demon Lord Chongbei. Damn, this guy can't be shaken off. Demon Lord Chongbei tried to withdraw his puppet to block, but it was too late. Poison extraction silver needle. Demon Lord Chongbei opened his puppet's abdomen and shot out a burst of silver needles. Although Demon Lord Chongbei's reaction was fast enough, for Lu Chen, this level of reaction speed was not on the same level as the previous battles he experienced. For example, King of Hell, his speed was beyond the naked eye. Insignificant skill. Lu Chen snorted and quickly avoided the silver needles. He had already arrived in front of Zhongbei. Lu Chen can even kill Demon Lord Chongbei, not to mention a puppet master. Bone-breaking fist. However, unexpectedly, Demon Lord Chongbei's body. When Lu Chen's body's fist, his body's spirit shield. Ha 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 ha, little bastards. I'm afraid your attacks are just tickling me. Evil, kill him. Lu Chen completely ignored the evil demon puppets rushing towards him, and continued to tangle with Zhongbei. Relying on his nimble movements, he quickly unleashed a second set of bone-shattering fists. The shield didn't break, but Chongbei's right arm was broken. This. Demon Lord Chongbei was frightened. Lu Chen sneered. Just now, when I got close to you, I deliberately forced you to move. I found that you didn't hesitate to stay away from the puppet to prevent me from getting close to you. It means that you are afraid of me getting close to you. Since you are afraid of me getting close to you, why are you afraid of me getting close to you? My attack is not high. The only explanation is that your shield's level is not high. It can block my attack, but it can't block my special effect. Demon Lord Chongbei's face was pale. This fellow had grasped his own mentality too accurately, wasn't he? Demon Lord Chongbei was indeed bluffing. Under normal circumstances, when the opponent saw that his attack was blocked, he should think about how to dodge the puppet's attack. But this guy didn't care. He directly launched 2 attacks and finally used the bone-breaking attack. Demonic Academy. Who are you? Who I am is not important. What's important is that you have lost. Lu Chen immediately used the bone-breaking fist to defeat Demon Lord Chongbei. After another round of attacks and completely defeating the two, Lu Chen sat on the bridge and leisurely organized the two's backpacks. In the 6th heaven, the audience was dumbfounded. Xian's tiredness from watching the battle through the night was gone at this moment. She stared at the guy on the screen with her eyes wide open. Just now, the representative of the Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace had killed a powerful opponent with his sword. However, Xian was deeply attracted by Lu Chen's battle. The representative of the Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace relied on his powerful equipment to win. Solipsistic, on the other hand, only used the speed talisman and the bone-breaking fist to defeat 2 powerful opponents. Although she admired Solipsistic for killing the King of Hell, she didn't have any hope for him in the prodigy competition. This guy. He used 2 items that others didn't want and used them to such a terrifying effect. What kind of monster is this? In the Demonic Academy's martial arts field, a green light shone. Everyone's eyes were wide open. What the fuck, that's possible. The president killed them instead. What the fuck? It can't be, right? How can a speed talisman and a bone-breaking hammer give off the feeling of several sets of heaven-tier cultivation techniques? It's over, it's over, it's over, it's over, the president is looting. Xiao Zhan's whole body trembled. 2 trash skills were already so powerful. Now, the president had 2 backpacks for him to choose from. Moreover, they were basically 2 people's backpacks. How could he survive? No. My 8 million. What are the Chonlu and Chongbei brothers doing? They can't even kill the president. This time, it's over. Everyone looked at Lu Chen, who was leisurely searching through the backpacks, and their hearts almost stopped beating. Lu Chen sat there alone, searching through the backpacks. The 2 of them had almost all their equipment. Lu Chen compared them. Weapons, clothes, helmets, shoes, arm guards, wrist guards, leg guards. These equipment were somewhat interesting. They were all body equipment without any special effects, but they could increase the user's attributes. It should be specially made for the Tianjiao competition. After all, they couldn't use soul-body fusion here, so the attributes had to be added to the user's body. Perhaps because it was more difficult to make body equipment, the attributes added couldn't be compared to battle soul equipment. The attributes added were only in the tens. However, after a set of equipment was completed, Lu Chen's attributes had greatly increased. All 4 attributes had reached more than 2,000 points. In addition, Lu Chen learned 2 sets of scimitar skills, Crescent Blade and Revolving Moonlight Slash, a set of Puppet Manipulation Technique, 2 sets of movement skills, Jiang Qin Yen Fei, Lone Tree Flash, Puppet Strings, and the Demon Puppet. Lu Chen checked the puppet's attributes. It had 1 defensive skill and 2 offensive skills. Putting the crescent blade on his back and putting away the puppet, Lu Chen stood up and let out a long sigh. He almost burst into tears. I finally have equipment and skills. This time, I should be able to reach the top 10. Now, my students must be cheering for me. The president did it. Lu Chen found a shadow stone in the sky, clenched his fist at the shadow stone, and made a gesture of cheering. In the Demonic Academy, the atmosphere was sorrowful. The president is flying. It's completely over, my 500,000 spirit stones, that was saved by me scrimping and saving for a few months. Is there any foreign trade business in the academy recently? Do we still need manpower? It's okay if the salary is low, just take care of 2 meals. Chapter 1094. When he thought of the diligent students in the academy, Lu Chen felt that the burden on his shoulders was very heavy. He was shouldering the hopes of those diligent students, so he was even more motivated. He headed all the way to the final battle. On the 8th day of the Prodigy tournament, Lu Chen smoothly arrived at the periphery of the final battle. There were no buildings near the final battle. It was an open and unobstructed plain. It looked like the Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace had deliberately arranged this. If one wanted to get into the top 10, they had to have excellent skills and the strength to defeat their opponents head-on. However, Lu Chen could see several huge treasure chests at a glance. They should be the highest level treasure chests, and the items inside must also be top level. However, the strange thing was that the treasure chests were so conspicuous, but they were still there untouched, and there was not a single person around. Speaking of which, there were still more than 4,000 people left. If he, the slowest person, had arrived near the final battle, then the others must have arrived as well. Obviously, these people were lying in ambush somewhere nearby, waiting for an opportunity to move. Xian had been comparing the performance of the Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace's representative, Tang Yu, and Solipsistic in the competition. Needless to say, after Tang Yu entered the purple gold continent and obtained the first treasure chest, he activated Berserk mode. If he met a god, he killed a god, if he met a Buddha, he killed a Buddha. He overcame all obstacles along the way and killed more than 400 people. His equipment, skills, and even recovery pills and attribute pills, who knew how many he had taken? It could be said that apart from the top-level treasure chests in the final battle, he was now wearing top-level equipment. However, even though Tang Yu was already very strong, he was currently hiding in the grass that was half a person's height. After all, to be able to survive until now, other people's equipment couldn't be much worse than his. Everyone was a powerhouse, so if he went out now, he would very likely become a target for everyone. On Solipsistic's side, although he also had a full set of equipment, compared to the top-level powerhouses, he was still more than a level lower. However, it was this guy with ordinary equipment that actually walked towards the biggest treasure chests in an ostentatious manner. Seeing this, Xian completely stopped watching Tang Yu's competition and focused all her attention on Lu Chen. It wasn't that Xian didn't care about Tang Yu's results at all. After all, he represented the Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace. But, it couldn't be helped. It was hard not to pay attention to Solipsistic's every move. No way, he just walked over like that. Hadn't he always been cautious? This is too hard to understand. Xian's eyes widened, and even her breathing became hurried. This was the place where thousands of people were lying in ambush. On the other side, the disciples of the demonic academy huddled together in fear. Please, send an expert to punish the dean. The current dean is a man equipped with a low-level cultivation technique and 2 middle-level cultivation techniques. How could those people with 4 or 5 high-level cultivation techniques be his match? Pray for a miracle. Lu Chen walked towards the VIP room as if there was no one around. The group of people hiding in the bushes had their minds blank. Is that guy crazy? Anyone with half a brain would know that this place is filled with people. How did he get here? How dare he? Damn it, should we make a move? However, the representative of Celestial Fortress saw Lu Chen's badge and immediately understood. Demonic Academy. Damn. It's nameless. I was wondering who had the guts. Forget it, if it's this guy, I think it's better to stay low. The treasure chest in front of them was bigger than Lu Chen, so the things inside definitely wouldn't be bad. When he was about 200 meters away from the treasure chest, Lu Chen suddenly stopped and looked around with a frown. If you don't make a move, I'm going to open the chest. A gust of wind blew, and the bushes moved neatly with the wind. Lu Chen waited for a while, but still no one came out. He shook his head. Since you don't want to come out, then I won't be polite. With that, he continued to walk towards the treasure chest. 150 meters, 100 meters, 50 meters. Lu Chen walked very slowly, as if he was deliberately giving the ambushing opponents enough time to hesitate. Mabe and the others' hearts were in their throats. He's seducing the ambushers. Huang Xian said, the others are probably confused by his actions, wanting to make a move but not daring to. Moreover, they have to consider that once they show themselves, they will become the target of others. This is the ultimate psychological game. Nameless threw the difficult problem to all the opponents. Who knows how many people's plans have been messed up by Nameless' move, they definitely wouldn't think that someone would dare to do this. Mabe nodded. Nameless' move is indeed ruthless, but he needs to have enough confidence in his own reaction, otherwise, who would dare to play like this? Solipsistic isn't called solipsistic for nothing, that guy is crazy. When Lu Chen was only 50 meters away from the treasure chest, someone finally couldn't take it anymore. You're asking for it. You want to open a level 5 chest in front of me? Dream on. I can't stand such an arrogant guy, kill him. In an instant, hundreds of figures rushed out from the bushes at the same time, shooting towards Lu Chen at the same time. Lu Chen snorted. I knew that someone would definitely not be able to hold back and make a move. Since you're here, don't leave. For some people, it was to fight for a ranking, but for some super strong people, there was no such thing as second place in their dictionaries. How could they let Nameless obtain a top-grade treasure chest so easily? How dare you be so arrogant in front of me, mysterious Ghost Claw? A black illusory claw directly grabbed at Lu Chen from dozens of meters away. Flat Mountain Sword Aura. Gale Steps. Overlord's Possession. Fixed Shot. A large number of skills were thrown at him. The skills of the 9 major professions were endless. In an instant, even the Demonic Academy's disciples saw hope. But at this moment, Lu Chen's figure suddenly blurred. Lone Tree Flash. Jiang Qinyan Fly. However, these people were all top experts of their respective continents, and their combat abilities were definitely not weak. It was as if they knew that Lu Chen had a teleportation skill, and even more skills were thrown at Lu Chen's second landing spot. You've used up your teleportation skill, right? Let's see where you can run to. 10,000 swords return. I've been waiting for your teleportation skill, Azura Tempest Seal. However, in the midst of his rapid movement, there were dozens of speed talismans in Lu Chen's hand. Who told you that I've used up my teleportation skill? Speed talismans. After saying that, Lu Chen's speed increased again, dodging a large number of attacks, and pouncing towards the person who attacked him the most. That person was Royal Heaven Immortal Palace's Tang Yu. Seeing that you're jumping the fiercest, I'll take care of you first. Lu Chen quickly rushed towards Tang Yu. Xian suddenly realized that the two scenes in front of her were actually synchronized. The one with the worst equipment was eyeing the one with the most luxurious equipment. This guy is really crazy. Xian couldn't help but exclaim. Chapter 1095. Lu Chen chose to prioritize killing the strongest one. Originally, Tang Yu had already made preparations. Although this guy had increased his speed with the acceleration talisman, it was still just an acceleration talisman. He also had a displacement skill, so he didn't need to be afraid. Looking for me? You really have guts. Shadow wave treading. Tang Yu was very sure that as long as he put some distance between them, he would have enough room to attack. With his skills, he could kill this person without any injuries. However, Tang Yu didn't expect that as soon as he landed, another figure would suddenly pounce on him at an extremely fast speed. That newcomer had a sinister and strange appearance, and his joints were stiff, but his speed was even faster than the person from the demonic academy. This is a puppet? Tang Yu's eyes widened. The person from the demonic academy was agile and had quick reflexes. Judging from how he had dodged everyone's attacks just now, he should be a combat expert who specialized in close combat. But who knew that he was actually a puppeteer? Even if he was a puppeteer, it wouldn't be a big deal, but this person's puppet was too fast. Moreover, it wasn't using a displacement skill. It wasn't until he saw the talismans on the puppet's legs that he realized. Why was it so fast? Because that guy had used an acceleration talisman on his puppet. In the main hall of the heavenly music parlor, Qin Ying's eyes widened. This guy can actually use the acceleration talisman like this? The High Mountain Pavilion master couldn't help but stand up and stare at the screen. Not only did he explore the usage of the acceleration talisman to the extreme, but he also coordinated it with his skills. That puppet isn't too strong, but in his hands, it's comparable to a war god puppet. At this time, in the main hall of the heavenly music parlor, a burly man from another race narrowed his eyes. The same thing in nameless hands has a completely different effect. No wonder this person could escape from the underworld's abyss of myriad calamities and kill the king of hell, Demon Lord. As long as he's given the slightest chance, he'll grasp it tightly. Under Lu Chen's control, the demon puppet's power had far surpassed that of Zhong Bei, a pure puppeteer. His body and the puppet were almost like one. In addition, both of them were enhanced by acceleration talismans. Whether it was movement or attack speed, they were always at an extremely high level. Most importantly, while other puppeteers controlled their puppets from afar, Lu Chen was adept at close combat. Tang Yu had just landed when he was attacked by a puppet. He hurriedly activated his teleportation skill again. However, what was waiting for him this time was Lu Chen's main body. For a moment, Lu Chen avoided most of the attacks by widening the distance between them. At the same time, he forced Tang Yu into a 1 vs 2 situation. Speed Talisman. Bone-shattering fist. Tang Yu hastily summoned a shield. Gold Jade Shield. For a moment, spiritual energy collided, and a series of treasure chests appeared. Damn it! Don't be arrogant. Traveling Crane Sword Shadow. Tang Yu's sword shot out like lightning, launching a fierce attack on Lu Chen. Lu Chen quickly relied on the haste effect of the haste talisman to avoid Tang Yu's attack. Suddenly, the chest of the puppet behind Tang Yu opened. Poison-extracting silver needles. A silver light flashed and a large number of silver needles swept towards Tang Yu. Not only were Tang Yu's 2 teleportation skills unable to shake off Lu Chen and the puppet, but he was now in a situation where he had no more teleportation skills to use. Facing the barrage of silver needles, his current attributes weren't enough to support him in avoiding the high-speed silver needles. Clang, 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 clang. A series of collisions rang out as the silver needles struck his shield. Your shield isn't bad. Lu Chen sneered. If he had fought with the Chong Lu brothers before, he probably wouldn't have been able to break through Tang Yu's shield with his attacks. However, he was now fully equipped, and his attributes weren't so low that he couldn't break through the shield. Revolving Moonlight Slash. The scimitar in his hand shot out several arcs of sword energy. After they bounced off Tang Yu's shield, they didn't disappear. Instead, they repeatedly attacked 2 or 3 times before finally dissipating due to exhaustion of spiritual energy. After a series of attacks, Tang Yu's shield had been broken. Sha, now. Lu Chen added a few more speed talismans, allowing Sha to maintain high mobility. Tang Yu had been besieged by these 2 guys who seemed to have activated speed cheats, and his godly equipment was quite strenuous. A streak of sword energy temporarily forced Lu Chen and the puppet back. Tang Yu angrily said, You guys aren't done yet. Where did you get so many speed talismans? He really hadn't expected that the speed talismans could be used like this, but the problem was that this guy had already used more than 20 speed talismans against him, and now he was still taking out a bunch. Not many, just a few thousand. Lu Chen sneered. Then, he and the puppet attacked again. Even though Tang Yu had 5 or 6 fairly powerful offensive skills, 2 high-level teleportation skills, and a defensive skill with considerable defensive power, his opponent didn't give him a chance at all. Speed Talisman. Bone-shattering fist. After a series of fierce attacks, there was a crack as Tang Yu's right arm fractured. Tang Yu had just slowed down a bit when the accelerated version of Yi Sha quickly caught up to him. It opened its arms and hugged Tang Yu tightly. Binding mechanism. Tang Yu, who had just lost his arm, was stuck in his wound by a powerful force, and he screamed in pain. Bone-shattering fist. Lu Chen launched another wave of attacks. Crack, soon, Tang Yu fell down powerlessly. Xin looked at the scene in disbelief. Tang Yu had actually been defeated by the solipsistic. The level of these two people's equipment was on a completely different level, but Tang Yu had been beaten to the point where he couldn't fight back at all. This. How could that guy use such a low-level skill to defeat Tang Yu? Xin felt like her mind was in chaos. Not only was Tang Yu defeated, but it was a crushing defeat. Tang Yu hadn't even touched the solipsistic. Xin's father had appeared behind her again at some point. After a long time, he said, the so-called extreme is probably referring to the solipsistic. He uses his current resources to the extreme. Moreover, in his battle with Tang Yu, he showed his experience in hundreds of battles. That's something that Tang Yu can't match at all. I reckon that it won't be long before the puppet's combination with his own melee attacks becomes a new model that all puppeteers will compete to imitate. Xin was dumbfounded. That guy had just casually paired things up, and it actually became a teaching material that everyone competed to imitate. Xin, do you still think he's stupid now? The man smiled at Xin. Xin took a deep breath and smiled. Dad, although he's really amazing when he fights, I don't know why, but I still think he's stupid. So stupid that he's cute. The man looked at his daughter's slightly red cheeks and shook his head with a smile. He deliberately sighed loudly and said, "Ah, a grown girl can't be kept at home." Dad, what are you saying? After Lu Chen dealt with Tang Yu, he turned around and reappeared another person. Speed Talisman. Bone-shattering fist. This guy's luck wasn't too good. The first wave of bone-shattering fist directly fractured his ribs. Before that guy could react, Lu Chen and the puppet decisively put him down and pounced on the next target. For a moment, everyone witnessed what it meant to constantly accelerate. Fuck, how many speed talismans does this guy have? A person with a broken leg looked at the two figures in horror. We have so many top-notch experts, but he's actually fighting us alone. Who the hell is he? Chapter 1096. The speed talisman, which didn't consume any spiritual power, was paired with the low-consumption puppet technique and bone-crushing fist. Lu Chen lasted longer than anyone else on the field. Those people watched helplessly as this guy defeated Tang Yu and several other experts. They didn't even have the will to fight anymore. This guy is cheating. Not good, he's coming. Run. Speed talismans can be used like this. Puppets can be used like this. That guy from the demonic academy isn't human at all. Now, Lu Chen and his evil spirits chased after the group of people as if they were in a no-man's land. In the end, they discovered that their one or two displacement skills couldn't outrun Lu Chen, who was constantly accelerating. What awaited them was only their bones being crushed by the bone-crushing fist. In less than half an hour, Lu Chen took care of more than 200 people who appeared, except for a few who ran away. Lu Chen dragged this group of people to the level 5 treasure chest and began to search through them one by one. Without a doubt, Lu Chen's following equipment and skills were completely replaced. Seeing this, the disciples of the Demonic Academy already knew that the outcome was already decided. The Speed Talisman, paired with the Bone-Crushing Fist, was invincible. If he was given a set of top-level equipment, that guy would jump from the most miserable one to the strongest one. Well, this chainmail has good defense. I'll change it. Lu Chen threw away his armor. Dazzling gold and silver snake sword. It's crooked and doesn't fit. I don't want it. This water-repelling sword is better. There's also a blazing sky spear. Paired with the scattered essence spirit energy cannon just now. I like this. Unfortunately, I don't have enough backpacks. Forget it, I don't want a long-range one. This puppet seems to be a bit stronger. It doesn't take up a backpack, so I can bring 2 puppets. In the grass, the group of people trembled in fear when they heard Lu Chen talking to himself about upgrading equipment. That guy now had 2 puppets, a Pishio battle pet and a purple-scaled azure python battle pet. Although his weapon was only the water-repelling sword and he had only switched to 2 sword techniques, the overall number of puppets didn't increase. But the most important thing was that even if he didn't pick up the weapon, he still didn't throw away the Speed Talisman. 2 puppets, 2 battle pets, and himself. If all of them were to use the Speed Rune, it would be a disaster. My bag isn't enough. I can't throw away the Speed Talisman. Forget it, I don't want the recovery pills either. Damn, this is so annoying. I still have to open a level 5 treasure chest. Lu Chen impatiently looked at the level 5 treasure chest behind him, his face filled with displeasure. Forget it, I won't open it. It's too troublesome to change it back and forth. So be it. The group of people gritted their teeth and stomped their feet. That fellow is actually too lazy to open a level 5 treasure chest. He must be crazy. Impossible, he must be trying to lure me out. Otherwise, why would someone not open a level 5 treasure chest? Once the looting was over, Lu Chen asked the battle puppet to help him gather the 5 level 5 treasure chests in the final battlegrounds. He didn't open the treasure chest. Instead, he looked around and then disappeared into the bushes. Puzzled, Xin asked her father, "Father, he actually didn't open a level 5 treasure chest. He even left in front of so many people. Who wouldn't know that he must be lying in ambush nearby?" The man frowned slightly. This fellow has such a deep strategy. Father, what do you mean? The man said, Xin, let me ask you. If you were lying in ambush at the final battlegrounds, what would you be thinking right now? Me? Xin frowned and tried to get herself into the environment set by her father. Solipsistic strength has been exposed. I probably can't beat him. Although we're in the top 10 of the prodigy competition, the current situation is that all of us might become his hunting targets. Xin said. When the time comes, no one can be sure that they'll be in the top 10. But if I can get the item in the level 5 treasure chest, maybe I'll have a chance, but that fellow might be lying in ambush nearby. If I go out now, I might be eliminated by him. But if I don't go out, I can only be passive. The more Xin thought, the tighter her frown. Suddenly, Xin looked at her father. Father, it's so hard to choose. I don't know what to do. The man nodded. Yes. That's the effect he wants. He's constantly exerting psychological pressure on all the lurkers. You just thought for a while and found it hard to choose. Think about those people. They're hiding in the surroundings, staring at the level 5 treasure chest. How painful would that be? This. Xin was stunned. She never thought that solipsistic seemingly meaningless actions would have such a deep meaning. Moreover, the man continued, as long as the others don't take the level 5 treasure chest, he's completely capable of keeping his position. At the same time, he can make people forget to join forces to deal with him. If it weren't for these 5 treasure chests, would you have thought of joining forces to eliminate Solipsistic first? Xin nodded heavily and said seriously, yes, he's putting too much pressure on everyone. If there's no hope, he'll let the others temporarily join forces. That's right. Lone Tyrant left them with a sliver of hope. That's right. Oh my God! Xin exclaimed. This guy is really too scary. At the same time, in the demonic academy, many disciples were having a similar discussion. The dean is really a master of psychological tactics. It's really scary to encounter such an opponent. Grasping the enemy's mentality so tightly that they hate him but don't dare to attack him. Now that I think about it, if I were a contestant, I'd be at a loss. Only Little Beast was frowning. Looking at the seniors around him who were discussing seriously, everyone couldn't hold it in anymore. I say, you're thinking too much. Didn't my dad say that he found it troublesome? That's impossible. He's too lazy to open a level 5 treasure chest. That's a bit too much. Many people questioned. Little Beast shook his head. If you don't believe me, ask Sister Green. No one knows my dad better than her and Xiao Min. Everyone quickly ran in front of Lu Yi. Even a sea of clouds and Yi Tian were asking. Lu Yi was a bit embarrassed. Well, based on my understanding of Boss, I think you're thinking too much. He didn't open the level 5 treasure chest probably because everyone's eyes were fixed on Lu Yi. Because he's too lazy to open it. Lu Yi finally said the answer. Too lazy to open it. The group of people's eyes almost popped out. Was it really as the dean said? Lu Yi nodded. Boss probably doesn't care what skills others get. He's been combining skills for so long. With his personality, he's probably too lazy to change them. The reason why he gathered the treasure chests together, if I'm not wrong, is because he wants others to quickly appear and snatch the treasure chests so that the prodigy competition can end sooner. That. A sea of clouds didn't know what to say for a moment. Everyone felt that Nameless had played a big game of chess, but in reality, Nameless just didn't want to waste time. Sure enough, after Lu Chen left the treasure chest, he didn't pay attention to it at all. Under the protection of 2 puppets and 2 battle pets, he was lying on the grass, resting. When Xin saw this, she turned to look at her father. Dad, your analysis just now. The middle-aged man was silent for a long time before he finally said, this guy doesn't play by the rules. Chapter 1097. For the people lurking in the bushes, every minute and every second was torture. They could only stare at the 5 level 5 treasure chests lying there, not daring to appear. Due to Lu Chen's strength, people's desire for the level 5 treasure chests was even stronger. Their current ranking was completely dependent on whether Lu Chen would discover them or not. This feeling was unbearable for these powerhouses. What's more, all 5 treasure chests were there. There were top-notch equipment and skills. They were like extremely tempting beauties, constantly teasing them. This mental torture lasted for an unknown period of time. Finally, someone couldn't bear it anymore. A person quickly used displacement and rushed toward the treasure chests. After the first person appeared, Lu Chen actually didn't appear. Seeing that the person was about to test the treasure chests, another figure finally flashed out. With the few people in front probing, everyone was shocked to find that the person who had been speeding up actually didn't intercept them at all. This time, the entire battlefield was suddenly in an uproar. More and more people appeared, all for the sake of fighting for the level 5 treasure chests and changing their fate. Hundreds of people had been eliminated in just a dozen minutes of chaotic battle. The Oriole stalks the cicada, unaware of the mantis behind. Just as this wave of chaotic battle was coming to an end, another large group of people came out of the bushes. The chaotic battle continued. Lu Chen hid far away. In any case, the Prodigy competition's final ranking was not based on the number of people eliminated, so he didn't want to participate in this chaotic battle at all. However, even though Lu Chen had hidden far enough, he was still discovered. "Ah, I'll kill you first." A voice suddenly came from behind. The two battle pets and two puppets in front of Lu Chen were disturbed by this passionate roar and stood up. Lu Chen also looked back in surprise. The person who came was a middle-aged demon spirit man, holding two swords and with red eyes. However, when he saw Lu Chen's two battle pets and two puppets, as well as Lu Chen's surprised gaze, he suddenly froze. In the next second, he quickly changed directions, passed by Lu Chen, and rushed into the chaotic crowd. "Ah, kill." That person's voice gradually faded away. Lu Chen frowned slightly. He thought that he had met an expert, but he didn't expect that he was just passing by. However, those people still started to fight in the end. Otherwise, if they all hid in the bushes, who knew how long the Prodigy competition would drag on? The situation at the battlefield was extremely intense. Batch after batch of people were eliminated. The moment someone approached the level 5 treasure chest, they would be surrounded and attacked. Half an hour later, Lu Chen checked the number of people. There were still more than 900 people. "Let's wait a little longer," Lu Chen said. 10 minutes later, only 400 people remained in the genius competition. At this moment, a participant successfully snatched a level 5 treasure chest. As he fought fiercely with his opponent, he approached the treasure chest seemingly unintentionally. Then, he quickly unleashed his combat power and defeated his opponent. Then, he took the opportunity to quickly snatch the treasure chest behind him. Many of the audience members were impressed by his calmness. "They're from the Heavenly Music Parlor. They've handled the details beautifully. Holy shit, a magical treasure has appeared. There are also recovery pills and a Qilin battle pet. A divine beast has appeared. A battle pet is definitely the most useful skill here." The level 5 treasure chest didn't disappoint. In the Heavenly Music Parlor's main hall, the audience was even more excited. Their representative was the first to snatch a treasure chest. "Not bad, the items in this treasure chest are very powerful. Luo He has become a strong contender for first place. Luo He majored in beast taming. This time, with the Qilin, he can finally unleash his true strength. Nameless has 2 battle pets and 2 puppets, but their attributes are not on the same level as the Qilin. Even if he uses the speed talisman, he might not be able to win. Plus, Luo He's combat power is extremely strong. Nameless is going to pay the price for his arrogance." As the number of survivors increased, there were more opportunities to fight for the level 5 treasure chest. Not long after, the representative of the Flood Immortal sect was sent flying by a punch and bumped into the treasure chest. He quickly got up and opened the treasure chest. Then, he used the swallow reverse instantaneous slash that he had just learned to kill his opponent. Before he could be surrounded, he opened the treasure chest and quickly retreated. Then, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th treasure chests were divided among the participants. However, apart from the representatives of the Heavenly Music Parlor and the Flood Immortal sect, the others only touched the treasure chests and took 1 or 2 items before they were surrounded. They could only divide the remaining 3 treasure chests among themselves. On the other hand, the representatives of the Heavenly Music Parlor and the Flood Immortal sect, after a short period of adjustment, once again entered the battleground as super powerful warriors. As super powerful warriors with many level 5 treasure chests, the 2 eliminated dozens of people quickly, as if by prior agreement, the 2 of them set their sights on those who had found a small number of level 5 items. After a series of chaotic battles, the 2 of them collected more advanced equipment and gradually became monsters. In the meantime, Lu Chen saw that the number of participants had finally decreased from 900 to 100. Then, there were only 50 participants left. "Congratulations, you have made it to the top 50 of this year's competition." When there were only 50 participants left, the stage had undergone a drastic change. The weeds on the ground had all disappeared. The ground of the battleground had turned into a huge arena paved with black rocks. In such an environment, it was no longer possible to hide. Then, several portals suddenly appeared. A few people were teleported to the battleground with dumbfounded expressions. At the same time, a voice came from above the battleground. The weak have no right to be rewarded. All the surviving participants have been teleported to the battleground. If you leave the battleground now, you will be considered eliminated. Lu Chen already understood that such a rule was targeted at those who wanted to survive until the end of the competition. You could make it to the top 50, but there would be no reward for the top 50. If you wanted to make it to the top 10, you would have to have the ability to fight head-on. However, there were only 50 participants left. They were not far from the top 10. It was not an exaggeration to say that this was the final battle. At that moment, several figures suddenly dashed toward Lu Chen from afar. Lu Chen quickly controlled the battle pet puppet to dodge while he moved away to put some distance between himself and the two of them. With two bangs, the place where Lu Chen had been standing was hit by 3 attacks. Gravel was sent flying everywhere. Lu Chen frowned as he looked at the two people standing in front of him. They were the representatives of the Heavenly Music Pavilion and the Wuxia sect. The two monsters in legendary equipment had tacitly chosen to attack Lu Chen first. "Hey, kid!" The representative of the Heavenly Music Pavilion glared at Lu Chen coldly. "The 5th-rank treasure chest was right in front of you and you didn't open it. I'm sorry, but I'm not afraid of you in my current state." The representative of the Wuxia sect squinted his eyes. "This is what you get for being so arrogant. Once I finish you off, Songyun and I will be able to fight for the top 10 with peace of mind." Lu Chen frowned. "Are you sure you want to challenge me so early? Isn't it wiser for us to make it to the top 10 first and then fight each other later?" "Top 10? Kid, do you think we will let you make it to the top 10? We had to put up with your arrogance because we couldn't deal with your attacks. But I don't want to put up with it anymore," Songyun said angrily. "That's right. You humiliated us with the treasure chest. You didn't think that we would be able to make it to the top 10, did you?" Lu Chen couldn't help but sneer. "You think too much. I just didn't want to change my outfit. Anyway, the items in the chest aren't attractive to me. I might as well let you out so that the competition can end sooner." Lu Chen moved his right hand. The two puppets were ready for battle and the two battle pets were ready to fight. Lu Chen smiled and said coldly, "Judging by the intensity of the competition, no matter what skills you get, the top 10 will be mine." Chapter 1098. The other contestants were having exciting fights. However, people knew that the battle between Solipsistic and the other two would determine the winner. It was unknown how many pairs of eyes were watching this battle. Lu Chen controlled the two battle pets and the two puppets to deal with the Kirin while he dashed toward Songyun. "Good timing!" Songyun shouted. Silent falling leaves. Songyun began to teleport. The silent falling leaves couldn't teleport far, but it could be used in multiple stages and the cooldown time was fast. "My silent falling leaves is designed to counter your speed talisman." Songyun snorted. Repelling shot. With that said, a cannonball dashed toward Lu Chen. Lu Chen quickly used his body technique to dodge. In the meantime, the man from the Hue Immortal sect had finished charging. "Kid, remember not to be so arrogant." Scorching Sun Wild Saber. Dozens of saber lights crisscrossed and chased after Lu Chen's landing point. Right then, the two puppets suddenly left the battle between the Kirin and stood on either side of the man from the Hue Immortal sect. The two puppets pulled at the same time. Reverse traction. Reverse traction meant that the puppets were pulling the puppets in the opposite direction. The puppets had speed talisman effects, and so did Lu Chen. For a moment, his speed was boosted. While dodging the scorching sun slash, Lu Chen was closing in on his opponent. The man from the Hue Immortal sect opened his eyes wide. He had thought that Solipsistic would only have one more helper since he had 2 puppets. However, he didn't expect that one more puppet would increase Su Ping's agility. You want to get close to me? In your dreams. Scorching Sun Wild Saber, Annihilating Sun Chop. That person waved the treasured saber in his hand and sent out a vertical saber chi while retreating quickly. However, as soon as he stopped, he noticed that the 2 puppets were still close to him. Lu Chen sneered. You can't get away. With that said, Su Ping used Jiang Qinyan to teleport 3 times in a row. With the help of the puppets, he was able to teleport 5 or 6 times. It was hard to track his movements. He was about to reach Su Ping. When Song Yun saw this, he shouted, "Kill the puppets first." Then, he controlled the Kirin to pounce on one of the puppets. However, on Lu Chen's side, Swanli and the green-scaled Snake King constantly relied on their speed advantage to entangle the Qilin, making it unable to provide support in time. Damn it! That guy's 2 battle pets aren't attacking. They are just trying their best to distract Kirin so that he can't get away. Since Kirin couldn't help him, Song Yun had to do it himself. However, during the chase, the advantage of his silent leaves turned into a disadvantage. Although Silent Falling Leaf could teleport multiple times, he was clearly lacking in strength. After all, the distance he could teleport to was too short. No, I have to destroy one of his puppets first. Grey Cloud had already made up his mind. He used his second teleportation skill. Instant change. This time, the long-distance blink skill allowed him to get close to a puppet. Die. Cold Ice Dragon Taming Sword. Song Yun stabbed out with his sword. Mogard Shield. The puppet immediately activated its defensive skill, but because Song Yun's attack was too strong, although the puppet wasn't destroyed, it was still sent flying. So weak. Song Yun cursed in a low voice. He was about to go after the puppet when he looked up and was stunned. He didn't know when it started, but he was already surrounded by the other party's triangle. The puppet that he had just sent flying was about to stand up. The 2 puppets and the young man had surrounded him. Lu Chen looked at Song Yun with a creepy smile. Don't you pay attention to your own position when you attack? Do you think I only attack your companions? How naive. Sure enough, some people get carried away when they attack. After saying that, Lu Chen quickly added dozens of speed talismans to the puppet and himself. I spent some time studying the puppet control technique of the new puppet and found that it seems to be able to set up a good attack and killing array. Just in time to see the effect. Lu Chen snorted. Three-way connection. The 2 puppets, plus Lu Chen's 3 points, all had a connection with each other. The positions of the 3 points began to attract each other, and together with their own movements, they became unpredictable. Solitary Swift Shadow. Lu Chen yelled in a low voice, and his speed suddenly increased. Solitary Tree Swift Shadow was a movement skill, but with the cooperation of the 2 puppets, Lu Chen's movements became extremely strange, without any pattern to speak of. Although Lu Chen didn't move in a straight line, his speed wasn't slow at all. Suddenly, a figure flashed in front of Song Yun. He was wearing the words, Zhongxian Gu Demonic Academy, on his chest. I said that no matter what skill you get, the result will be the same. Lu Chen yelled in a low voice. Speed Talisman, Bone-Shattering Fist. With a boom, the punches landed on the Flood Immortal Sex Expert's protective shield. You didn't expect me to have a protective shield, right? Song Yun smiled proudly. You're not the only one who can surprise others. Lu Chen snorted coldly and said, how many times can a protective shield save you? Speed Talisman, Bone-Shattering Fist. Lu Chen used his advantage in speed to quickly circle around Song Yun's back and attack him again. The two puppets continuously assisted Lu Chen in changing his position. This scene simply stunned everyone present. Are you kidding me? The puppets are controlling the puppeteer. I've never seen such a strange puppetry technique. Reverse traction can be used like this? This is the first time I've seen it. That guy is really a battle prodigy. His speed is already very fast. Combined with the reverse traction from afar, his movements are even harder to track. That guy's adaptability in battle is like his body's instinct. He probably wanted to trap the person from the Flood Immortal sect. When he saw that the Heavenly Music Pavilion came to rescue him, he immediately changed his strategy and trapped him in an instant. Song Yun was suffering. He was supposed to rescue his comrade from the Flood Immortal sect, but now he was in a fierce battle. His protective shield's level was very high, and it blocked 3 to 4 bone-shattering fists at the same time. However, that guy's attack speed was extremely fast, and his attributes were not low. His protective shield was eventually penetrated. The protective shield is gone. In the Heavenly Music Pavilion's main hall, everyone stood up anxiously from their seats. At this moment of life and death, Song Yun shouted, "Speed Talisman. Spiritual explosives." Song Yun's main occupation was an explosives expert. However, to everyone's surprise, he actually left behind an explosive skill that was rarely used by explosives experts. He threw out more than 10 cannonballs at the same time, and a series of loud explosions erupted in the arena. Boom boom boom. The explosions created a terrifying spiritual energy fluctuation, causing the battlefield to become even more chaotic. However, just when everyone thought that Song Yun had escaped, a white light suddenly flashed, and a low voice shouted, trying to escape in the chaos. You don't know that I love chaos the most. Tai Chi Sword Shadow. Then, in the midst of the explosion, a thin and sharp sword aura directly pierced through Song Yun's body. Chapter 1099. Since Song Yun had been eliminated, the Kirin had lost its ability to fight as well. The only one left was the one from the Hongxian sect. As for Lu Chen, he had 2 battle pets, 2 puppets, and Lu Chen himself. There was no doubt about the outcome of the match. Lu Chen and the other 4 launched fierce attacks at the same time. That person struggled for only a few minutes before he was eliminated. The 2 of them had taken most of the items in the 5th level treasure chest. However, they were still defeated by Lu Chen. Inside the Heavenly Music Pavilion, the masters beat their chests and stamped their feet. Why did Song Yun have to go after Nameless? Even if he wanted to, he should have waited until he was in the top 10. That's right. As long as they can avoid Nameless, they will definitely be in the top 10, no, the top 5, or even the top 3. Just for the sake of getting first place, I don't even have the reward now. What a double loss. No matter how upset they were, Song Yun had been eliminated. Of the remaining people, no one was a match for Lu Chen. Sure enough, after Lu Chen eliminated a few more people, there was only one person left in the decisive battle. Lu Chen looked around. Some people's corpses had not been teleported away in time, but there were no other competitors except for himself. Congratulations, you have won first place in this year's competition. In 3 minutes, you will be teleported back to the preparation area. Your battle pets and puppets will not be taken away. Lu Chen smiled. Finally, it was over. He patted Swan Xiu and the purple-scaled Snake King and nodded to the 2 puppets. Thank you. It's a pity that I can't take you away. At the moment, in the Demonic Academy, the Black Armor King was checking the accounts. As he did so, he laughed in a terrifying way. Roar, 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 roar. I've made a fortune. I've made a fortune. I've never seen so much money in my life. Ha ha ha, I told you to be careful but you didn't listen to me. Look at you now. Ha ha ha. A small number of people who had made it to the top 10 were overjoyed. However, most of them were currently experiencing the darkest moment of their lives. I suddenly missed the dean who couldn't even breathe when he walked. After saying that, Xiao Zhan's expression turned sluggish. 8 million, all gone. He had originally wanted to make a huge profit, but now, he was the one who suffered the most. Yi Fan took out his account book. It seemed that the 70,000 spirit stones that he had painstakingly saved up were going to be lost. Why did I choose the one with the lowest odds and the safest odds, yet still lose everything? Yi Fan did not understand. Chu Tian shook his head and sighed. A pack of speed talismans can turn the tables. There's no justice in this world. In the distance, the Black Armor King was shouting loudly, "Junior brothers and sisters who need money recently, if your life is too tight, you can borrow from me. The interest is very low, come and take a look." Yi Fan put down the account book, sighed, and went to line up to borrow money again. He, who was about to reach the shore, once again stepped into the abyss. Just as everyone in the academy was busy settling the accounts, someone suddenly shouted, "Look, someone's causing trouble." Everyone hurriedly looked at the screen. Lu Chen was sent back to the preparation area. As soon as he appeared, he was immediately surrounded by a group of people. Lu Chen looked at the group of fiendish people staring at him in surprise. He frowned slightly. "The competition is over, what are you doing?" "Kid." A person pushed aside the people in front of him and rushed in front of Lu Chen. Lu Chen looked over. It was Zhang Yun. Zhang Yun said angrily, "So what if it's the prodigy competition? There's too much chance here. My real strength is not something that the prodigy competition can compare to. Didn't you discover the use of the speed talisman and take first place? You're just one-star Emperor Xiu, do you know what level I am? You actually snatched the first place of the Tianjiao tournament from me. I don't accept this." Zhang Yun gritted his teeth in anger. Not only Zhang Yun, but there were also many people glaring angrily at Lu Chen. Someone from a broken academy can take first place. Did you get news from the Imperial Heaven Immortal Palace and know how powerful the speed talisman is, so you purposely collected it? That's right. Otherwise, who would be stupid enough to leave behind so many speed talismans instead of skills and recovery pills? What right does this kind of trash have to take first place? It was the prodigy competition just now. Outside the arena, you're nothing. Celestial Fortress's representative had just taken first place in the top 10. Just as he was feeling excited, he suddenly noticed the commotion and stretched his neck to look over. A group of people was surrounding Nameless. After taking a closer look, Celestial Fortress's representative widened his eyes, his face full of horror. No way. Forget about the prodigy competition, they actually dared to provoke Nameless in real life. This is crazy. They were strong in real life. What a joke. Nameless' real strength was at the peak of level 6. Lu Chen did not intend to make a move. He chuckled. I was wondering what was wrong with you guys. So it's because you can't afford to lose. You guys are strong in real life. What does that have to do with me? It's fine as long as I win the competition. Lu Chen snorted coldly and turned to leave. You want to leave? Tell me clearly, did you cheat or not? A palm pressed on Lu Chen's shoulder. Lu Chen turned his head and looked at the hand on his shoulder. His voice suddenly turned cold. What? Do you want to fight? Let's fight then. I'm full of anger from the prodigy competition. Now that I'm finally out, I can teach trash like you a lesson. With that, the person was about to raise his hand. Suddenly, Lu Chen grabbed that person's wrist and slowly turned around. The one who led the group to provoke him was Heavenly Music Parlor's representative, Zhang Yun. Lu Chen narrowed his eyes slightly. I'll warn you again. If you insist on finding trouble, you may die. You can be arrogant in the prodigy competition. Outside, I'll let you know who's the boss. Sang Yun shouted angrily. Since I have nothing left, I won't come here in vain if I cripple you, the number one. Celestial Demon Symbiosis. Lu Chen shouted in a low voice and directly entered battle mode. His white hair fluttered in the wind and his entire body emitted a terrifying spiritual energy. At this moment, Lu Chen was completely different from the ordinary man from before. At this moment, a voice shouted loudly, "Mr. Nameless, please have mercy." Then, a purple figure flashed from afar. However, Lu Chen had no intention of stopping. Sky-breaking sword. With a flash of white light, Lu Chen was already standing behind Sang Yun. However, Sang Yun didn't even have a chance to react. Until now, the only change was that the ferocious look in his eyes had turned into a look of terror. This was one-star Emperor Xiu's strength? Impossible. He did not even use a weapon. A moment later, Sang Yun's arms were directly cut off. Lu Chen did not even turn his head and said coldly, "Remember, I'm someone you can't afford to offend." In front of the screen, Xian's breathing was rapid. Looking at the handsome yet ruthless man, her mind went blank. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.